Hello and welcome to a new episode of the Game Informer Show. I'm Ben Hansen, joined by Matt Birds.
Hello.
Andrew Reiner.
Hello.
And Jeff Marchiafava.
Hey.
Also joined by the sound of a condo being built in Minneapolis outside. So if you hear some weird sounds this episode, that's what's going on. Jeff just isn't hungry. Hey, hell of a show. Division 2. Off to a good start.
Very good. Yes, great.
Division 2, we're going to talk all about it. You guys have all been playing, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Great. We'll dive in deep on your thoughts so far. And then we'll talk about... Kyle won't stop talking about this One Piece World Seeker game. He's
God.
like, everybody come over to my desk. Look at this. It's an anime game that doesn't suck. Look at it. So we'll talk about that. And then a lot of very fun community emails. There's one community email that is so good. I've never seen... I've read thousands and thousands of these community emails.
Well, you're teasing all of us. We're not going to be here for it.
I know, but you'll have to listen or watch after the fact because it is
That's how you do
so
it, yeah.
smart. It is such a fun idea. And then back after the show, we're joined by Nicolas Doucet. Who you say? He's the director for Astro Rescue Mission, one of my favorite games from last year. And it's just one of those things, as I described to him, because it's a real ass-kiss rodeo over there, Jeff.
Why do you keep doing that?
I love that game so much.
I sat in the wrong chair.
But it's a lot of just figuring out, like, who is this team? Who is this director that pulled this game off out of nowhere? And actually, it goes in a different direction than I expected because I didn't know how baked into Sony they were. And they're basically, like, so connected to being the R&D team within Sony. So whenever some weird, funky tech is being cooked up for the PlayStation, they were the first, like, game designers to get to experiment with it. And so they were there for, like, the origins of the PlayStation 4 controller and everything like that. So he's giving a GDC presentation where he said he's going to, like, show other versions of the PlayStation 4 controller, like super early prototypes. Nothing better. That's fun stuff. But also just, he talks about like how originally it was all a multiplayer game, which I'm very happy they got away from that. Talks about like unused gadgets that they cut along the way. So it's interesting chat.
So what was the design, the PlayStation 3 controller?
What's that?
Was the design of the PlayStation 4 controller the PlayStation 3
Yeah,
controller?
it was the Batarang one, though, the one that they actually went back to. Yeah, they really wanted to get that one out the door. But it's a fun chat. Also talked to him about like the obvious, hey, Astrobot's so ripe for a sequel. And he says, it would need to be a game changer. We're not just going to make more levels. And then he hints very strongly that he knows exactly what it's going to be because I think they must be working on it. But it's a fun chat. For now, The Division 2 from Ubisoft.
Yeah.
Bertz, you haven't slept since we got code in here?
No, I've been just like
4 hours
injecting it
sleep?
straight into my veins.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, I've shot a lot of baddies over the last 25 hours.
Okay, so we've been playing for a couple days, or you guys have, but far from the review era. This is kind of early-ish impressions, even though, like, how many hours do you think you guys have put in at this point?
I'm in the 25-hour range,
All
I think. I started like Monday evening, and I've been powering through as much as I can.
Okay, Reiner, how you doing?
Good. I'm probably 10 hours in, 8 to 10 hours. But I wish I was playing more. Like, I can't stop thinking about it.
Ooh, Jeffem?
Yeah, I'm probably in the 8 range.
Okay, perfect. Escalating scale. Bertz, how is it so far?
It leaves a very favorable first impression. I will say that.
25 hours of favorability.
Yes, I mean I'm having a good time. It scales really well. So we have a crew that's playing with me, Miller, JV, and Jeff. Are riding shotgun on the review, but they're not always available because they have jobs to do and lives to live.
Ew.
So I'm playing some solo stuff, but then I'm having them jump into a mission mid-mission sometimes. And the scalability of it's really good. You can play this game solo if you want through the campaign, but it does a good job of knowing how many baddies to throw at you in any given situation.
And you aren't running into that problem. Sorry to immediately bring up Anthem, but it's going to come up at some point.
Hey,
but
it's someone that played Anthem and Fallout 76 at launch.
Yeah.
This game is a real treat. It's lovely.
Brick S-House, some would say.
It works.
Well, not the public launch yet. There might be some falters there.
It officially comes out tomorrow.
Right.
So we'll see what happens when people start hitting the servers hard. But the hardcores have already been there. They bought the $110 Uber edition that gave them early access.
And Ubisoft didn't punish people who were playing their game early for more money? I don't understand this concept in the video game industry.
Right now, it seems like it's roaring. Like,
oh, great.
And this is their second chance, right? Like their second time doing this type of game, and hopefully they learned a lot from the first one.
And beyond just like not having server issues, it doesn't feel like we're, hanging our hopes on a promise of what this game is going to be. I think this is the one live service game I've played where it is already a good to very good game that I am enjoying now.
Oh, good.
And so like I can look forward to them adding more stuff, but I'm not... we don't have to sit here and say, it could be a good game. Like, if they keep on adding to it, it's going to get there.
Please don't give up on it, Ubisoft.
It's already there,
But what I was going to ask you is, like, jumping into missions, you don't feel like it's crappy to have, like, story moments spoiled or anything like that?
No, because the story's not that huge of a component to it.
Yeah, I mean, there is a story there. There's, a codex with lore about characters. But, I mean, this is really a game where it's an ABCs like Destiny. Destiny, sure, there's crap you can learn. But really, you're just a zombie Russian shooting space baddies, right?
Yeah.
In this game, you're just a guy from somewhere in America shooting, American baddies. And that's...
So it's just like different factions in the post-apocalyptic world.
Yeah.
That's all that's going on here.
Yeah, and I guess maybe just because by virtue of not being a sci-fi game, there's just not as much lingo and it feels like, as opposed to Anthem and Destiny, they know that that's what their story is, and they're not trying to convolute it with a bunch of other things. And I think that's where Destiny and Anthem fall apart for me, is they're trying to tell these stories, but you're jumping in and out of missions, and you're kind of all over the timeline. And you're like, wait, who are these guys again? And here, they're bad guys. You're trying to take back a city from them.
They might have a missile. Maybe you should prevent them from using it. Like
Just very Tom
the
Clancy
ABCs
stuff.
of Tom Clancy. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. And then what about like the actual gameplay design in the missions? Is it a lot of rinse and repeat of go here, shoot the bad guys, mission over?
Yeah, but the level designs are really good. Like there were levels that were really memorable in the first game, like going through Madison Square Garden. They're doing a lot of that. I feel like I'm a tourist with a gun in this game. I've been to so many museums. I've been all over Washington, D.C. I'm going through. I was like, oh, this is what the Vietnam exhibit looks like in this history museum. Shooting baddies. I'm in a planetarium. This is a cool light show.
I
shooting
love
baddies.
that. Is it like opening up on the mall then? Or where does the game start?
It starts on the White House lawn.
And
the White House is your base of operations.
Yes! I can explore the White House?
You can.
Finally.
And
awesome.
The amount of detail in this game, like anywhere. Like if you're looking at a pile of trash, it's like, oh my God, the artist went nuts on that trash. But seriously, like you go into the White House, you're like, wow, look at all this detail. Any place you go to is just loaded with cool things to look at, unique geometry. Like it's impressive from a visual standpoint.
All right, this is very superficial. It's not a make or break for me. But can you like upgrade the White House since it's your base? Are you like leveling up
the base
your
of
home
operations?
base?
You're gathering people that create new wings of the base of operation. Just kind of like the first game, it works a little bit differently, but it's tied more to the settlements, which I feel like
the
is
safe houses. Yeah.
The settlements is like a new thing in the division. It's there's actually civilians that are trying to like regroup and get their feet on their ground and like have food and water and things people need.
Yeah.
So there's a place where there's civilians now that are not just like randomly roaming the streets like the first game.
Okay.
And it gives you a nice compulsion loop to help the people and build, because you see their base grow too as your base of operation grows. And as they grow, you take experts from there and they bring them into the White House.
Did you guys all play Division 1 at launch, or did you play it after kind of the revamp?
I reviewed it and I played everything, like all the content. So.
Yeah, I played at launch.
Okay. Does it feel pretty consistent, like with where Division 1 quality-wise left off? Because it seems like by the end of that game's life, and I know it's still going on, but everyone was like, okay, it's at a great place. The community seems happy, or content enough at least, as an online community can get. Does it feel just like a natural transition, or does this feel like a radical departure in a lot of ways?
No, it feels like a well-worn glove so far, and I think that's a smart move by them. They're really focused on endgame, and I'm not at endgame. I can't talk about that yet, but I mean, everything works as you expect it to work. The loot system is really well defined. You're getting random cool stuff all the time. Maybe not the stuff you want, but when you get something you want that's not a goddamn Uzi, it's nice.
Those Uzis.
Yeah, just get them out of the goddamn game. They're worthless.
Yeah, just doing some research on the game, I went to their official website, and there's a tab for Endgame, and I was like, that's great messaging out of the gates. Like, and that's something like, Anthem and Fallout both struggled with, and the Division 1, was the Dark Zone had issues, stuff like that, and it seems like they made that a central focus. But there's also a 40-hour campaign you got to go through before you get to that stuff.
Yeah, there's a ton of stuff just beyond like the main missions and side missions and, different checkpoint or control points and all these kind of things. I was really surprised by.
Multiple progression paths.
Yeah.
You have your regular progression, you have your Dark Zone progression, your conflict, which is the PvP progression, your clan progression. There's all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
Like there's
It's a mess of menus at the beginning.
Yeah.
Like, you're like,
It is
"Whoa,
overwhelming
I
at
don't
the
know what
beginning."
all this stuff means. But they do a good job of explaining it and kind of introducing it at kind of a slow drip as you're going through it, so you're not overwhelmed necessarily. But there's things in that game I'm really curious about that I haven't gone into. Like there's the PvP element outside of the Dark Zones too, that you said has its own path as well.
Yeah, Conflict has its own progression as well.
How does it seem so far?
I haven't played Conflict yet.
Okay.
I'm waiting. That's more of an end game thing. You can do it right
Get
now,
your gear,
but
yeah.
I'd rather do it when, I mean, the gear normalizes, so I guess you could go in right now, but that feels more like a treat at the end of the campaign. I'm focused on campaign right now.
And Dark Zone stuff, has anybody dove into that?
Yeah, it's a lot. You don't have to be scared of it right away. You know, they let you
Okay.
go in and do a mission where you get to learn your bearings. There aren't other players in it. You can kind of get the lay of the land, and each Dark Zone will have an introductory mission for it. And then once you feel like you understand the parameters, next time you go in, it'll be like the classic Dark Zone.
And there's 3 Dark Zones now.
Yep.
And a roaming Dark Zone?
No, 3 Dark Zones, but one of them in end game only will have free-for-all kind of.
Uh-huh.
The weapon normalization's done. You can't tell what if a guy is like a wanted person or not. All that will be off the table, and it's just like the Thunderdome.
Gotcha. Can you, just zoom out and say what the Dark Zone is? It's been a while since people learned about it with Division 1.
Well, there's 3 different designs. One's for close quarters. I don't know if that's like, they're like different quadrants, like east, west, and south,
Yep.
something like that. And then one is longer range, and I don't remember what the third
Yeah,
one
they
is.
kind of design them for certain type of play styles. But basically, it's a player versus environment versus player space where you can engage other players if you want. There's a loop there that if you want to play that way, you can actually avoid them. You can kind of loot the area, kill the baddies at certain landmarks, and then you have to ring the dinner bell and like light the flash
flare or
gun,
whatever?
the
Oh,
flare
okay.
gun. Yeah, and then everybody knows you're doing it, so you just hope.
They can come get your loot then,
Yeah.
like take you out.
and only
become-
one person can get the loot and get out of there?
No, everybody has a bag of stuff, and you can attach it to it. It'll take it out.
Okay.
And the worst feeling in the world in the last one was I spent all this time in this area. I got this cool weapon. I went there, and these guys who are more overpowered than me just took it and ran. That can still happen in this game, but there are weapons that you'll recover in the Dark Zone that you get to keep regardless as well now.
That's a cool idea.
Okay. Jeff, and what's the most fun you've had playing this game so far?
Probably the main missions, I think, and just the gameplay of it is really good, and it's not ultimately that different from other types of these games like Anthem, where you're going into a place and they're throwing a lot of guys at you, but it doesn't feel as rote and as repetitive as the other games have. I still look forward to every mission that I do, and it does. I think just the core gameplay and the AI of the enemies is good enough that you can't, it doesn't
aggressive.
get boring while you're there.
Okay.
And so you're constantly looking for guys who are flanking you. You constantly have to communicate with your team and kind of coordinate your abilities and stuff to get through it. And so that has stayed entertaining.
There's nothing better than having like 3 guys with turrets, place them perfectly, and you can kind of sit back and watch your handiwork as they eviscerate everybody.
Jeff, it's weird because it seems like you wrote Funny to a Point, which is your little comedy column on GameInformer.com.
Yeah.
But you wrote one not too long ago about like, hey, I'm still having a good time with Anthem.
Yeah.
Despite all the problems it has.
Yes, and so that was it. That was the treat of this game is I can enjoy it, and I don't have to look over a bunch of caveats, and like all the problems that Anthem had with it.
Right,
too.
right. 'Cause
Yeah.
it's like getting to the combat is fun in Anthem, and then the combat itself, it's flashy, but not that strategic for the main story at least.
Yeah.
And then this, it feels like it's maybe the opposite.
Yeah, and it just kind of embraces freedom of exploration too. There's a lot of secret stuff you can find, those echoes and
Yep.
tape recorders, and just
Yeah.
get more, data on what's going on in the world and what happened to people. It's cool.
I'm excited about this game, and it's always tempting to use yourself as the perfect test case, but it's like the amount of goodwill by the end of Division 1's life, and then like seems like good first impressions for Division 2. Like, I think a lot of people are going to try this thing, maybe for the first time.
I'm loving it. Like I
Yeah.
think it's really, really impressive. But I also suffered through Fallout and
That's true.
Yeah,
This is what a good game looks like. Right now.
The skies have cleared for Ryan.
Bert, you have a crazy schedule trying to review this thing.
Oh, yeah.
This feels like another Red Dead 2 where you just have to marathon this thing.
Yeah, and I have a deadline that is not moving. I have to get on a plane to go to GDC on Sunday. So
Ooh, that's a good reminder.
It's
yeah.
on.
Next week, I'll be at GDC all week, which should be exciting. Hopefully, we'll learn a lot there. But next week's podcast might be funky. It's either going to be something back home pieced together with something in GDC, or all GDC, or all home. but it could be a weird
It could
one.
be anything.
It could be anything. I'm excited about it being some weird patchwork thing that we just stitched together, so it should be a funky one. But anything else about Division 2 we didn't hit on?
Again, it comes out Friday, tomorrow. So if you're looking for a good loot shooter, or what do we call these?
Looter
Looters? Looter shooter?
Yeah, whatever.
If you're looking for one that it just kind of hits a home run out of the gates, I think this is it.
Yeah,
we'll see what happens.
And it has plenty of content to keep you busy.
Okay, from your 8 hours so far, it seems like it has a deep well that you're digging through here.
You're just scratching the surface of things you can do. Yeah.
Look for it in an Epic Games store near you. I always forget. I gotta go there to play this thing on PC. All right, got it.
Or play a Uplay. You can buy it straight from Uplay. Right?
Oh yeah, I guess there's Uplay if you're into that sort of thing. All right, guys, thank you so much. I hope to hear more about the game in the future. I'm sure we're all gonna be playing it. For now, do the three of you want to clap out completely simultaneously?
1, 2, 3.
Let's get anime. We got Kyle Hilliard.
Let's get anime.
And we have Imran Khan.
I'm always anime.
Imran. So a little setup here. Imran is a GD champion here because I ask a lot from fellow editors for being on the podcast. Like, hey, Bertz, even though you're reviewing Division 2, can you type
you're
the
up till
time?
2 a.m.
Yes, to drive in so we can talk about it on the podcast and share it with our wonderful listeners and viewers. Imran is the only other person who's played One Piece or knows anything about One Piece in the office, and he just got back from the dentist, so half your mouth is numb, right?
Yep, I pretty much can't talk, but I'm going to try anyway.
You sound fine.
Yeah,
you
you
don't
sound
like-
great. But if there's one mean comment, so help me God,
Deleting it.
deleting that person
Off
from
the face
planet
of the Earth.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, One Piece World Seeker.
Yeah.
This is a game that, Kyle, you had as your third most anticipated game of 2019,
Yeah.
if I recall correctly.
Yeah, which a lot of that was curiosity about it and being optimistic about it.
Yeah. And is
yeah.
the cat killed or not?
Is the cat killed or not? It's so overall, I like it. I'm having
Okay.
fun with it. My reviews online, I gave it an 8 out of 10.
Yeah.
It's not like a technical powerhouse of like an open world game. It doesn't have the detail of other open world games and stuff like that. But like, it's a big open world without any loading screens as you move around. You can
Okay.
fling yourself around. You can explore. You can climb. All kinds of stuff.
If you're just listening to the audio version of this, you might be saying, One Piece game, open world, fine. But not that it's a game changer, but
No.
looking at footage, I think helps cement, like, oh, it looks fun to launch yourself off of trees or buildings and then float around. Like, people who get a thrill out of movement in Crackdown or even nowhere near this. I don't even want to say it in the same sentence, but I will. Little Spider-Man.
There's a little bit of
Just
flavoring
a
in there.
touch
Yeah.
of Spider-Man in there.
It
It's
feels like it should be way more Spider-Man. Like, that's the main problem with it. This is not enough Spider-Man.
oh, really? What do you
Just
mean by
like
that?
Spider-Man.
Like, I want to swing around like Luffy, like swing with the arms, but you can't really.
Yeah, so what you do is you like grab onto the sides of buildings and the tops of trees, and you basically slingshot your way
Yes.
around. You like launch yourself. I think in the anime he swings sometimes. It's not like
He
his-
rockets himself around.
Yeah, he mostly
like,
does that. There is in the city. There's a weird way. There's a certain areas where you can swing to kind of quickly get from point A to point B. And it's kind of like that cheating style of swinging where he's not actually grabbing onto anything. It's just like an animation of him moving through the city. But you never really take advantage of that. It's faster
Okay.
to just grab onto the sides and launch yourself.
Yeah.
And that's my favorite thing about the game is the movement. You're like far and away. And I am one of those people who really, if the movement is solid, like I'm on board for the game. Like I really love jumping from high heights and swinging.
Again, as we've said 1,000 times, number one Crackdown 3 defender, number one Agents of Mayhem defender, number one Prototype defender, number one Infamous defender.
Prototype, not so much.
Okay, but
Yeah.
still, that is your kind
It's
of
my
game.
jam. I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Good movement in a game is like a big selling point for me. And this has it.
Right. Imran, do you think he's crazy?
I think it's fine. I think it needs like 20% more polish, and like it's obviously the most ambitious anime One Piece game ever.
Yeah.
But like it's not quite there. Like it's not going to be a very like high polished, high budget open world game that people want for the series.
No.
Right. And so it's from a studio that's made all the old One Piece games, or just a lot of them?
Pretty much.
Okay.
They made a lot of One Piece games, yeah.
They have like they made a lot of like GBA games. I think they made Jump Ultimate Stars, Jump Superstars, games like that.
Yeah.
They worked on Wii Fit for Wii
They
U.
worked on Wii Fit U. They co-developed it with the Nintendo. Yeah, Ganbarion, which is a name I'd never heard before, but it's a Japanese studio. Also, they made our favorite game, Kyle, Dragon Ball Fusions. Yeah. Woo!
Okay, never mind.
That old 3DS game that people didn't really talk about too much. That was totally fine.
But yeah, so the movement I like a lot. The combat is repetitive. Like you're doing a lot of the same attacks, but it's flashy, and I like it. I didn't really get bored with it. And then the missions are kind of ho-hum. It's a lot of like point A to point B, get in a fight here, move over here, get in another fight.
Right.
It doesn't get too interesting with its like mission design or anything like that, but like I love moving around. I like the combat, and I actually like the story too. Like I like the way it wraps up and it ends. It feels like a legitimate One Piece short arc. Like if this were in the show, it would have been like, I don't know, like 2-3 episodes or something like that.
Imran, you're a big One Piece fan?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, how much do we need to know going into this game?
You need a decent like background for the characters, I'd say, but like for the most part, it's a fairly original story, and everything you pretty much need to know about the characters is told to you in the first like hour, 2 hours.
Which is, hey, they're pirates. One guy took a special pill or something, and now he can stretch.
Pretty much, like it's kind of a heist movie. The way the game is set up, like they're trying to steal something and they actually end up over their heads.
Yeah.
Like
you just need to know, like, hey, they're pirates and this is their team.
And like the core story is around these like two new characters. But there's the thing that you would miss out on by not being into One Piece is like when bosses show up who aren't part of the main story. They're like a lot of like, you know, bosses from his past, like marine captains that he's fought and stuff like that, and they'll just show up and like fight you. So then you would kind of miss out on like, I don't know who this guy is, I don't know why I'm fighting him.
Okay,
but that's just more
like he killed Luffy's brother, and Luffy's obviously very pissed to see him, but you wouldn't know that if you didn't watch the series.
Yeah,
right.
And so those are mostly there as just like fun, almost borderline cameos. Like they don't really play into the main story very much. Yeah,
Imran. Every time you're on the podcast, I like to kiss your ass and talk about how smart you are. And Kyle, during our new Gameplay Today episode, which is on GameInformer.com, Kyle, I think it was in that episode, you talked about this, and it was really a stumper, which is Japanese open world games. Why aren't there more, and how many are there realistically? It's like, okay, Breath of the Wild, sure, got it, out of the way. Outside of that, what immediately comes to mind? What do you think is the second biggest Japanese open world game of all time?
Metal Gear Solid 5?
Yeah, it's such a weird open world. It's like, you know, the fact that you're just kind of like launching in and out of it repeatedly. But you're right.
That's
you're right.
Good. Yeah, I was even thinking, like you could say like the original Zelda, maybe.
Oh, look, if you're
like,
going back to that generation, that crap doesn't count. I'm talking like last couple generations.
And then is Yakuza considered open world?
I would say no.
Yeah, because it's like big areas and you're kind of moving between them, right? There's like loading screens to go between areas and indoor areas and stuff like that, right? I haven't played a lot of
I feel like
Yakuza.
open world is like you can approach a situation however you want to, like from whatever direction you want to.
Yeah.
And Yakuza is not really like that.
No.
Right.
Yeah, there aren't.
Why do you think that is?
I think Japanese developers and players too. I think they like really directed experiences, probably.
You can't say that about an entire nation. This is offensive.
I guess that, yeah.
No, it is
you're
odd.
right.
I don't know. It's just one of those stumpers. It's like, yeah, I guess.
Oh, Final Fantasy 15.
Oh, there's a great example.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even though, back half of the game, you know.
But even that game,
I was
like,
gonna say like the main problem is budget and studio size, and like the bigger developers do it, like Nintendo and Square Enix.
Right.
yeah,
Right.
but even 15, like the open world element of it is like not that integral, because like even the second half of the game is pretty linear, and like you know, there's not a lot of exploring necessarily in Final Fantasy 15. If you get out of your car and walk around, you're not really going to find much.
Yeah.
You know. But it is open. Yeah.
Would you ever count the first Dead Rising open mall?
Yeah.
If we're going pure Japanese developed.
Yeah, you could make an argument.
Podcast at GameInformer.com. Please write in with other examples of Japanese open worlds. If you have any insight, if anybody's ever given an interview out there that you've seen that's interesting, I'd love to learn more about it. Okay, Imran, surprise. I know you want to go to sleep after your big dentist visit and your mouth is all falling apart and stuff, but I want to learn about Wizards Unite as well real quick.
So it's the Niantic follow-up to Pokemon Go using a Harry Potter license.
Yeah.
It's very similar, and like if you look at the two games side by side, you might not be able to tell the difference immediately. Like you look at the map and you see like, oh, there's instead of Pokemon map, it's magical traces. You go there and you like, I forget the terms they use, like foundable magic and confoundable magic. I'm not a huge Harry Potter fan, so I'm not 100% sure.
We have Kyle here for that. Yeah.
You're not catching Fantastic Beasts?
Yeah, there are Fantastic Beasts there. Like the traces of magic are just various things throughout Harry Potter lore and licenses and whatever. So like there's what was it called, a demiguise,
Okay.
which is the like one of the things you can find and like you use your magic to free it. Or one other ones is like, this is Harry Potter being attacked by a Dementor during a Quidditch match. So you have to use your magic to help him out, and then he returns back to his time.
That screenshot made me laugh so much because it's like on the side of a road, just Harry Potter getting his life sucked out of him from a Dementor. It's so funny.
That's how it goes, you know?
Did you leave optimistic, or like did you just learn about it? You get to play it, or what was the
I got to
presentation?
play a little bit of it, and like it's just like Pokemon Go, honestly. Like
Yeah.
it's if you didn't like Pokemon Go, this game would probably not do anything for you unless you're like huge into the Harry Potter license. But the actual gameplay, they're making a couple of changes to make it like more, I guess gamer friendly is the word. So like there's a profession you can enroll in now, like a job class and skill trees, and like that helps you when you're going into fortresses, which are like the community event things.
Yeah.
So like you want to have different job classes set up for different kinds of boss fights.
And it seems like
So-
you're doing the spells by like tracing your finger on the thing, little Shadow
Yeah.
Cities-esque.
Pretty much, yeah. And like how well you do things is going to be determined by how fast and how accurate you do that. It's not super easy. Like, it seems like it's kind of incentivized, especially during boss fights, to have to buy potions. But I don't know. It's hard to say, like, a previous games how well it's going to be balanced.
Kyle, how much do you care about any framing of a story with this type of thing? You love Pokemon Go, you love Harry Potter. It's like, I'm in, I don't give a crap. But they try and couch it in some way within a story, right?
I mean, I don't care. Like,
Yeah.
I downloaded the Ghostbusters game that was like this, and a lot of it was like setup, and I don't think I even made it to like the first ghost capture. I was like, this is not what I want from this type of game. Just like Pokemon just drops you in, and it's like, hey, you see a Pokemon there, tap it. You
Right.
know? Where Ghostbusters was like giving me a lot of information about who I am and why I'm there, and all the materials I need to catch these ghosts. And I was like,
Shoving women down your throat.
oh, I didn't get that
It was
far.
really funny, though. Like, every time I asked them, like, hey, is there, like, J.K. Rowling or anyone, like, the Harry Potter writing team involved in this? And, like, they didn't say no, but it was pretty obvious they were trying not to say no.
Well,
We
I mean,
looked at J.K. Rowling's Twitter account.
I
That
know. I was
helps,
about to say she's pretty, whatever with the larger
No,
lore
like,
of Harry
she'll
Potter.
be like,
lately.
oh, yeah, Hagrid in that game only is, like, an asexual or something. Like, that's the way she does it. She does, like, she'll go and retcon things to the last second.
Yeah, there's the
Wait, she said Hagrid was an asexual person?
No, just, like, that's the way she'll go back and she'll go or talk about things in the lore as if they'd always been there.
Yeah.
Right.
Like the way wizards used to poop on the floor and make it
Yeah.
disappear with magic.
She says that?
That was
That
what
was-
I was thinking of recently. Like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, they don't use the bathroom because they just magic away their poop.
But wait, but Morning Myrtle's in the bathroom.
This is old wizards. This was like wizards of the past. Modern wizards use,
So once they
plumbing
have
conveniences.
Okay, because Hogwarts has been around since how long?
It's a long time. I don't know the exact number.
Okay, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years.
Probably thousands.
Okay.
maybe, yeah. I
Did
don't know.
you
I could
see?
be wrong about that.
Did you see Crimes of Grindelwald?
No.
Oh my God! Are you kidding me? That's all I need to know.
I'm not interested.
That's
it's
insane.
Yeah. I think it was the McElroy brothers. They were talking about it, and they were like, this, as like someone who grew up in Harry Potter, seeing people getting excited about Grindelwald, this is what it must have felt like for our parents being totally disinterested in Harry Potter that we were watching.
Yes.
Like, we're the generation now that's like, why do you care about this Grindelwald crap? Like, I'm one of those people.
But are you actually saying that to anybody, or is it just like one commenter online who really cares about Grindelwald?
That's true. I don't know anyone who's like super into it.
Yeah.
Even the day one people, I feel like we're pretty like, it's confusing now.
What a mess. Anyways, but Wizards Unite, did they give any sense of when this game's coming out?
This said 2019. I assume they're probably going to do beta at some point. So I guess maybe summer, fall, something like that.
Okay. Kyle, is now that One Piece World Seeker's off your list of most anticipated, is Wizards Unite bumping up there?
No.
Really?
No. I mean, I don't know. I'll download it, but I'm not like, I barely have time to play Pokemon Go.
But you love Pokemon Go. You still play it.
I do, but like, I don't think I have room for another one of those type of games.
That's what people
We'll
say
see.
about battle royales and stuff. There's always room.
I don't know. Yeah, I guess. We'll see. I mean, I'll
Okay.
download it. I'll probably write something about it. But
Sure.
I'm not super excited about it. When they announce that release date, I will not be marking the day in my calendar. It'll
Right,
you know.
right. Imran, any news we should cover real quick? Any story within the last week that has made your eyes fall out of your head? Since
There
you're-
was that thing with 343 and pizza.
Yeah, that was
pretty
funny.
funny.
That was yesterday that went up. Yeah. So the idea is the Master Chief Collection is coming to Steam and PC, which, so excited about. And do you want to explain what happened beyond that?
So someone on Reddit said they would buy the first 343 employee who posted in a Reddit thread if Master Chief Collection comes to the PC like that week or that inside Xbox. It had already been rumored and I think Thronout was reporting it. So the community manager posted teasingly, because everyone kind of knew at that point. So when the thing actually got announced, the person who promised that actually did deliver a pizza, but so did a bunch of other people, to the point where 343 had to publicly ask people to stop sending pizzas because their secretary had left for the day. We can't accept these. It's a logistical nightmare.
Yeah.
I mean, do you have any sense? Is it dozens and dozens and dozens of pizzas? Do you have any sense of the total at this point?
I saw from the tweets I saw, I at least counted I think maybe 9 to 10 different pizzas.
Pizza deliveries? Okay.
Yeah.
The story layout actually is good. You should go look it up because Imran embedded every single tweet from a bunch of different Bungie employees, and it's progressively getting
343.
I'm sorry, yeah, 343. Progressively oh, pizza, fun. Oh, more pizza. This is great. Okay, this is too much pizza. Yeah. Guys, you gotta chill out with the pizza.
And they sent him trying to troll him, sent him pineapple and jalapeno, and they're like, okay, sure, yeah, we'll eat this. Trying to come up with the weirdest pizza combinations to ship over to
him. We
him.
got a comment from someone who's I love that pizza. That's the best. That's the only kind I order. I'm like,
what?
Really?
All right. I mean, I would try it.
Yeah.
It seems fine. Just
I'm one of those
banana
weirdos
peppers at that point.
Likes pineapple.
It's so fun, and I'm sure that with you writing that story and other sites picking up that story too, that 343 is gonna get even more pizza. I love when the internet gets weird and positive, especially for a studio like 343, which has been kicked around a lot in the last couple of years. The idea of hey, thank you, we're so appreciative. Here's an avalanche of pizza. That's so much fun. And officially, Game Informer is not willing to accept pizzas at any point. That'd be devastating.
Yeah, I was trying to think of a scenario where we would even get pizza for announcing a cover or something.
When the new next cover story comes out, people are going to be like, Gazinga, gotta get them pizza.
Gotta get these guys pizza.
Yeah, awesome. Great. Thank you so much for Skyping in. Go rest your mouth. Dentist Imran, which is a new form of Imran. And for everybody else, you want to move on to emails?
Sure.
Here we go. And welcome back to the Game Informer Show. I'm now joined by Leo Vader.
What?
What a magical appearance.
Thank you.
We have Cyril Vasquez.
Hi.
What a typical but fine experience. And Ben Reeves.
That's how I
Wait a minute.
aim for.
Who's in the booth?
It's intern Hunter. Hunter Wolf. Ow! He'll be introduced on a later show. But thank you for switching, Hunter. That's very sweet of you.
Thank you.
What we're doing with this section, because the sections keep coming, is we are reading off emails that people sent into podcast@GameInformer.com. Some are smart. Some are silly. Some are wise, some are foolish. People sent in everything. Questions, comments, words of wisdom, a lot of feedback this time, a lot of grilled cheese recipes this time.
Nice.
Everybody sent a lot of stuff into podcast@GameInformer.com. We'll read off some of our favorites, choose our absolute number one favorite, and then honor where that person is from by putting a pin up on the big board. Ready?
All right.
Great, here we go. First of all, a lot of feedback because Joe Juba, this maniac, talked into one of these microphones and he said, hey, write into podcast@GameInformer.com for your favorite multiple timelines video game storylines, because he was having a tough time coming up with good examples outside of the Chrono series and stuff. A lot of people were like, hey, Ocarina of Time, you idiot.
Oh, what a fool.
Let's see, Spelldragon wrote in Oracle of Ages. That has multiple timelines,
Yeah,
Serial?
you can travel between the two basically. So
Oh,
it's similar to
right.
Ocarina of Time, but there's a lot of puzzles that involve you going into certain areas.
The old
depending on
one's
time.
sepia tone.
That's very fun. Let's see. David Blessman writes in and says Time Splitters 3 had a delightful take with time jumping and multiple timelines. That reminded me, actually, I should have thought of this one. Escape from Monkey Island. Did anybody else play that one?
Yeah.
That one has a fun puzzle where you're on a raft in the
Yes.
swamps and you have to give an item to yourself, but it's fun because you get to do both sides of it. Is what I
Of the
recall.
conversation, yeah. And you have to remember exactly what he asked you and then
Yes.
ask all the same things when you see yourself later from the other side.
It's just so fun to have that in a video game. Whenever I think of that loop, I think of how satisfying it is to have lived that a little bit in Escape from Monkey Island and having to do both sides of that and taking advantage of it on both sides. It's
Awesome
very fun.
game.
Leo, Escape from Monkey
How have
Island.
we never talked
fan.
about this?
Oh my God, we've talked about everything under the sun, for Christ's sake.
Yeah.
Let's see, other stuff. Oh, Steven from Virginia Beach writes in and he says, yeah, there's the Chrono series, all that stuff, but you must talk about Zero Escape Trilogy as well, if you're talking about multiple timelines.
Yeah.
Serial, are you a fan of that?
I've played the first two.
Okay.
999 and Virtue's Last
You're giving me
Reward.
the blank stare of a lifetime.
I feel
when
like the second one, because I feel like the one that goes into that stuff the most is probably the last one from what I've heard. 'Cause
Okay.
There's only there's a little bit of it in Virtue's Last Reward, but so I don't see it as like, oh, here's a great time bending storyline. But yeah, I've heard a lot about the last one. So.
We're going to try a new segment. I like to call it Fat Ugly Businessman. If I was a big fat ugly businessman and I said, I want to get more money out of these fans of these games, this 999 Virtue's Last Reward, what do I do? What do we got to do to get a new game out of here? What's the path forward for making more money out of these fans?
Of games where you're jumping around multiple timelines?
Just of like this series in particular.
Zero
like,
Escape?
what are they going to do? Yeah,
Put the original
Oh.
on Switch.
Put on Twitch, you say.
That's right, Mr. Fat Ugly
Now
Businessman.
this is an idea I could get used to.
But we tried putting it on Vita.
It's good enough, right?
Hey, this is fun now, but you're going to get sick when people keep writing in to GameInformer.com, podcast at Game Informer. That's the email, right? About Fat Ugly Businessmen. Okay. It's going to be nonstop.
You're right. I can't keep that character up. He's like my Pee Wee Herman.
Yeah. So we're officially retiring him now.
Yes.
We just want to save your sanity before you
Great.
devolve into madness.
Thank you. Luke Chambers writes in from Indiana. It says, Dear podcasters, I recently saw that your video on those stupid little dances you can buy in Devil May Cry 5 had a substantial number of downvotes. You recommended that players not buy those dances for the ludicrous sum of $60 a piece. And I agree with you. Why do you suppose people were upset? Is it just that people take offense at being told what to do? Suriel, walk us through this. What's
I'm gonna
going
buy
on?
them all now.
Yeah, with Devil May Cry 5's
spite.
microtransactions.
So basically, you can buy red orbs, which is the game's main, like pretty much its only currency. And you buy 100,000 orbs for $2. And for the most part, it seems fairly innocuous because you can get most of the skills that you want on your first playthrough, and it's not a big deal. But there are these things called EX provocations, which cost 3 million orbs, which, I mean, I went through the game once and maybe got like maybe 150, maybe 200,000 orbs. So you'd have to play for a really long time if you wanted to grind those out. Or you can just buy them. You know, if you do the math, it's $60 per these taunts. So gameplay-wise, they're not super effective. They're not going to like make you a much better player. What they do is when you taunt, if you already have a combo going, you can get up to double S rank after like 15 seconds or so.
And the taunt, I was expecting like a Fortnite thing, but it's like a bigger production. They're actually kind of fun to watch, and like the characters kind of give little little voices.
Yeah, they're kind of
Jamona.
there's music playing, and at the end there's like a big thing of orbs that falls on you.
Yeah.
Not enough to make it for how much you're spent, obviously, but like. So those things are pretty like they feel fairly cosmetic and as a reward for having played the game enough to get 3 million, but don't spend money on them because they're not worth the $60 that you have to.
Stop telling me what to do.
But I think I don't know why people get so bent out of shape about that.
It was
stuff.
bizarre. You never know exactly what YouTube's going to react to in a big way, and that was a video we put up. And it wasn't overwhelming, but it was like 1/3 downvotes of people being like, "You babies, don't tell me what I can and can't buy." It's like people defending microtransactions. Like
That's weird.
I don't understand
The two critiques I saw were it's not that hard to get orbs if you have this special hat and you're really good at the game, and that it's a satire on microtransactions and you're not supposed to buy them.
Did you really see that commentary?
Multiple people said that. That
Is it
there
a
was like it was like a joke.
The satire thing just baffles me.
Yeah, it's not like, hey, pay this much in Zenny or some Capcom currency. It's like, no, this is cash going into Capcom's big fat wallet from the big ugly fat businessman or whatever.
And it seems like the first group wouldn't even necessarily have disagreed with us because we were saying don't spend your cash on it, but we didn't say like don't grind out.
Well, the name of the
free
video
time, right?
specifically was like,
It's not worth it.
we just called it expensive, but we didn't specify either one. But then
on
the video,
in the version on the site, we mentioned that they are sort of like you can grind for them, but like
right,
yeah,
So they might have thought we were saying like these aren't worth it or something.
yeah, or
Which
that
it
these
sounds
are
like they're
bad
kind of
or
not
whatever,
anyway, but
yeah.
But you can't say that.
I'm sorry.
right. It's pretty amazing the feedback for DMC5. It has strongly continued that trend this year of people saying, "Hey, Capcom, what the hell's going on? Good job,
Hey,
Capcom."
Capcom. All right.
I
Well
think
done,
because
dude.
I think a part of it is people really like DMC5,
Yes.
and you you like everything about a game or you hate everything about a game, and everybody who's
Yeah,
ever
they-
worked on it. You
I
know?
think fans of that game like have a specific history of like, oh, they made DMC, which hardcore fans didn't like, but
Yeah.
it was sort of praised by critics and stuff, and so they see this as like, no, this is the game that we actually wanted. Don't say anything negative about it or whatever. And so I think seeing any sort of negativity about Devil May Cry might be a thing that sets them off.
Yeah.
but who knows?
Whether that's something people are actually thinking or not, it's
Yeah.
more just like of the vibe of the internet at a lot of
Yeah,
times
it's
about
like-
a lot of things.
Don't you dare mess with Devil May Cry 5.
Do you
Right.
guys think that someday YouTube will ever roll out a feature where you can set individual things to thumbs up or thumbs down within the video? So like for this podcast, we could have like 4 thumbs up and thumbs downs, and then
would-
people could like downvote us individually.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
Would that be interesting?
I would like for them to have a timed comment thing like SoundCloud does.
Yeah.
Comments on specific time codes.
People leave timestamps all the time, which is really fun and helpful. But
Yeah.
yeah, having that very specific thing sort of like pop up.
Oh,
Yeah.
a thumbs up like right there. I like that.
Yeah, or that's a different idea, but yeah, I like that too.
like
Come on,
Periscope more, you know.
Yeah, you
Little
learn a lot
hearts
of things
popping
from
up.
Periscope.
People
Yeah.
just have like thumbs down every time a specific member they don't like is on the screen.
Right, right.
Joe Juba.
Well, they will go unnamed.
What a Black Mirror episode that would be.
Devin Horner from Valparaiso, Indiana, says, "Hey, how you doing? My question is simple. Do you prefer to play ranked game modes like competitive in Overwatch or a quick play approach like COD games? And why?
And why?
And why?"
Nice little twist at the end
Ooh,
there.
Yeah.
very nice.
I think quick play. I'm a quick play kind of guy.
I like to quickly play single player. That's what I do.
Yeah.
I do like getting into rank sometimes, but I feel like I've come to like quick play more as I get older. Just like because it's so much better to just mess around and not take a lot of stuff too seriously. Like back when I used to take Dota super seriously, I'd play nothing but ranked, and a lot of the times it felt like you were trying to conform to other people's expectations of you. Of
Yeah,
like, oh, here,
right.
you're playing this character, you have to play it this way because that's the thing that I saw, online that says this is the best way to play this character. Why aren't you playing it this way that I've imagined, like that I've come up with in my
Yeah.
mind? So in quick play, it's just I like even in Dota of having the excuse of like don't take it too seriously. It's quick play.
Totally. At the peak of my love of Overwatch, I would dabble in competitive and have the worst time of my life in a way that I couldn't even explain. It was just like not what I wanted to do. Everybody was
Right.
taking it just too seriously and
It-
just sucked the fun out of it.
In
for me.
Overwatch specifically, there was like a weird thing where I just had no interest in playing that game competitively at all because, like, when you do your placement matches and there are so many things out of your locus of control of like, someone just dropped out of our game. I guess we're screwed now. I guess
Yeah.
this measure that I'm supposed to use to evaluate myself as a player is completely skewed by all these other factors of like this guy was just not really being a team player at all. This guy dropped out. The other team was just absolutely like roiling us and actually working together. And so I had no sort of investment in that number whatsoever.
Yeah.
Which can happen in Dota too, but I guess I just played a lot more Dota than I did Overwatch.
This is a sad, like, old man question, but like,
Oh,
what
Reeves, don't
are
do it.
the like
What's the
practically
internet?
what is the difference between quick play and like competitive play? Like you don't get anything different out of those two things, right? Other than just the experience.
I think you need to be back to the home by now, actually.
Oh yeah, I gotta go take my pills.
I think
I'm sorry.
there's just more sort of like stat tracking in ranked of like here's basically a ladder, like a position that you can track over the course of time. Is like that's like the biggest fundamental difference is that ranked will show you
and
your
Reese, when he says
progress.
ladder, he's not talking about the thing that you're always telling us, don't walk under, and
Oh,
your
yeah.
other crazy old wives'
Nope.
tales and stuff.
I fell and I hurt my bum. It's just a way. It just sounds like it's a way for like the developer to separate the communities a little bit. Be like, here's people
part of
who
it,
are
too.
super hardcore, and here's people like you just want to have fun.
Me and my
Right.
friends put too much stock in that ranked thing in Rainbow Six Siege for too long and just only played casual because we were worried about the rank. But it's just a made up number, you know?
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. We've gotten into ranked lately and it's been way more
All
fun.
numbers
On
are
that
made
though,
up.
like I would love them to add a ranked mode to Apex, just so all the good players don't play with me anymore.
The hell out of here. Yeah, Forrest from Lawrence, Kansas says, I'm guessing you look at your own and other GI people's writing a fair amount. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
Fair.
Yeah.
Do any of you have specific words or phrases that you or other people at GI use in writing a lot?
Yeah.
What words do you use, Reese?
I feel
They
like
didn't
I,
ask that.
Yeah,
you're
they
right.
did
You're right.
not.
You're right. Oh, it's very strict community email section of this episode.
we cannot go forward. I use however a lot, or I'll use like unfortunately, fortunately a lot, like those little like intros.
Are you
I
trying
like.
to curb that?
It's I don't know. They're so nice to be like. Here's one thing I just set up and connect that thought. which I like. But yeah, I do probably use it too much and try to weed it out a little bit.
Unfortunately, it makes your writing unreadable.
Unfortunately. Fortunately, nobody reads my stuff.
Wait a minute, this is a good idea, bad idea for Animaniacs now that I think about it.
There's two habits that I had to sort of wean myself off of was saying, like, opening a sentence or a paragraph with that said, yada, yada, yada.
Did you get that from Miller? Because he always says that in person. Now, that being said.
No, that's a different phrase. Okay. And then the other one was, like, instead of using just manages to do something, just using does something. I would write that all the time. I don't know why. If maybe it's like from college of trying to fill out, word like page counts or whatever. Just like, what's the longest way I can say this?
Totally.
And just slowly like cutting that stuff out.
Honestly, character counts or word counts in school probably like screw up more writers than anything else. Stop doing that.
Yeah.
Going to
teachers.
school?
Yeah. Teachers.
Stop going to school.
Stop teaching us.
Nigel Hart from Kentucky says, "Hey, crew, as someone who listens to a lot of podcasts pertaining to gaming and someone who likes to read fiction and album reviews,
Brag.
I've always found reading game reviews boring." What the?
How did
Is this
this
guy
get in
making
here?
fun of us?
So Nigel says, "I don't know why
Hold
I
on.
find
I'm
them
bored by this question.
All right, we can move on." No, he just says that he just likes getting his game reviews from like podcasts and audio.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
I'm exactly the same way. I like review scores. I don't really like reading game reviews.
Well, there's that like pushback. I don't hear it as much anymore, but like there's a pushback against review scores for a long time, where it's like, oh, we're not going to attach scores to anything. I was like, why? Like that's such a like easy way to distill like what you think about a game, and it like helps add context to what you're writing.
I know, but
like,
the problem is people don't want it distilled because we all agree that at times review scores can be a silly concept, and I think those sites are just trying to get around that.
Sure.
yeah, but like I don't know. I personally, as a consumer, review
Yes.
scores are so helpful.
Yes.
To me, as a consumer, review
You're a
scores
consumer too?
are yeah, man, I love being consumed. Dude, they're almost too distilled. It's like I almost get too little information out of just a score to the point where it may as well not exist in my mind. I just think
Really?
about it so little. Because what Crackdown 3, 50 on Metacritic or whatever?
Uh-huh.
Love that game. Probably be in my top 10.
They should just rename it 50 in my mind because that's all I need to know about Crackdown 3. It's going to make your top 10.
Probably. I mean, we've had a good year so far, so we'll see. But
Okay.
I mean, there's also like I think a good score works in tandem with the text, obviously, like Reeve said. But I think it can provide for like not everyone is looking for like to read this like very deep dive on a game. Some people are just like, okay, I'm at the store. I guess I should buy a new game. What's out? Metro, Crackdown 3. Like, which one of these is better? And you look at those scores, and if you sort of develop a bit of a fanship for like a couple of outlets, you're not going to go to the Metacritic score. You're going to go to like, okay, so what did Game Informer give it? What did IGN give it?
Right.
And so like, but I don't have I've got like 20 minutes in the store before before I got to go. So like using those as a shorthand, I think is beneficial for a lot of people.
Yeah, for sure. I've been so annoyed lately. We'll talk about it probably around Thanksgiving this year, but I've really gotten crazy into board games this year. I've lost my effing mind, some would say. And it's so frustrating trying to look up board game reviews because the number one result is always Board Game Geek. And every game ever made is somewhere between a 7.1 and a 7.4 on that scale.
Really?
And I want to claw my eyes out. Like, just give me a range. Like, give me that Codenames is a 9.75, and Splendor is an 8. I just want something distilled down that way, and I can't
maybe
find
their
it.
scale is just from 7 to 7.4. Have you?
Well, to be fair, it's like user reviews, I think, is what
I
it's doing.
see.
And there's
That
something
throws
maybe
everything
about
off,
user
yeah.
reviews that ultimately makes it land in the middle unless a woman's in it. But
I will
don't
say,
know.
Game Informer hot take. The fewer the points, the better for me. Like a 5 stars is perfect. Tells me enough. When it gets to more numbers, like if there's 8.25s or whatever, like Game Informer might have, it becomes a little more vague than what is
Leo,
already
if
vague.
I could rip you in half like I did this paper right now, by God, I would do it.
I'd like to see you try.
That's it. I'm coming over there. You're lucky you're sitting over there. Let's see. Sean McClary echoes a lot of people writing in saying, "Greetings, Game Informer crew. First-time writer, long-time subscriber. Thank you. All this grilled cheese talk has made me want to experiment a little. At first, the thought of mayo on grilled cheese made my stomach turn. However, my ignorance was silenced after just a few moments ago when my taste buds opened up and made me a believer. I will never use butter on my grilled cheese again to cook it."
Oh my god.
Nice.
He is committed to the mayo lifestyle. A
Okay.
lot of people have been turned here.
I meant to go do that last week. Try this, and I still haven't. But I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it this week. You guys talked me into it. Yeah.
All right,
no,
careful.
Try to stop.
You're doing it.
I'm riveted by the story.
It was weird. Somebody wrote in too. Like I was forced to eat a grilled cheese for lunch after listening to the podcast. Like there was no way around it. And then I realized, oh yeah, wait. Yesterday at lunch, I went and totally got a grilled cheese, and I didn't know why. And it probably was because I've been thinking about grilled cheeses the entire week. And then today, I just realized I'm wearing a T-shirt, which is an O-Cheese grilled cheese food truck in Minneapolis T-shirt. Oh my gosh. They're taking over our lives.
Your skin looks a little bit more pale and cheesy now. I don't know where that was
You have a
going.
bunch of mayonnaise on your ass.
Also, Sean sent in, how's no one laughing at that? That's fucking hilarious.
No, you actually do.
Oh, wait.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Sean also wrote in with a picture of the grilled cheese, and it looked very good.
I would love to try that, but as a single man who lives alone, I feel like my mayonnaise would go bad before I've been through 2% of it, you know? I just don't eat that much mayonnaise.
Oh, you know what you do? Just get those little packets like at a fast food restaurant, then just like squirt the mayonnaise packet.
Smart.
Why do people hate
Bachelor
mayonnaise?
style.
It's just like, it's just whipped eggs, right? Like, do people hate eggs?
No, I think people like eggs, but there's something gross about mayonnaise because if you have too much of it, it becomes disgusting.
And just foods like that where you don't fully understand it. It's like, how is this eggs?
Right.
You know?
Sure.
Like, same with yogurt. It grosses me out
How is that
sometimes.
an egg?
Yeah, it's like,
I
how are
agree.
these eggs?
I don't get it.
Jerry from Gilbert, Arizona says, hey, a few weeks ago, both the Avengers Square Enix team and Sucker Punch hired new community managers. Do you think that could be a sign that new information is on the horizon for these games? Or are they just filling roles? For one, for Avengers, I might say that might mean something. But
Yeah.
the idea of Sucker Punch hiring a community person who is Andrew Goldfarb from IGN,
Yeah.
friend of the show. I don't think it necessarily means that like they're ready to launch a ton of info and they need this guy fresh in off the street to help it, you know?
Well, yeah, he didn't mean launch a new game.
No, launch a bunch of info.
Yeah, they already, Yeah, no, I don't think that means anything either. Usually they have to like prep things ahead of time. You do a lot of work before the game gets announced sometimes as a community manager.
Right.
So even though the game's announced, that doesn't mean they're ready to do stuff. He's going to be doing things and prepping things 4 months on end before they really roll it out.
Right.
Yeah, I got a little worried where after saying that one of my most anticipated games for 2019 was Age of Empires 4, then I was looking at like job postings on the site, like, can I learn anything about Age of Empires here? And one of them was like, we're hiring for our senior narrative designer to map out the overall narrative strategy of Microsoft's Age of Empires series. And that was one of them where it's like, oh boy, they don't have that at this point. Like maybe this game is much further away than I think.
Right.
Not looking good.
Would they be smart with the Avengers one to start announcing things with the movie? Like when that comes out?
You think so?
I would think that'd be smart, but I
But
don't know
also
if
there's
they're
something like
there.
antiquated because if this game is just going to be like the old Avengers, the idea of like in a post-Endgame world or even like mid-Endgame hype to be like, who wants to play as Tony Stark? It's like, oh, that guy that was ripped into 1,000 pieces in Endgame? Like,
What? People want to play as Tony
Spoilers.
Stark? What do you mean?
I'm sure they do, but don't you think there's something about like it's fun to be on the cutting edge of Marvel, and if you see this game that's just like the original Avengers crew, to be like, okay,
Plus, you know, people of power have lost a lot of confidence in video game tie-in movies, I'm sure, since they were all bad and then stopped coming out. But I'm curious if Spider-Man made big enough of a dent. Like, do you think a commercial for that game will be in front of Endgame?
Yeah. Well, that's a good point because I would have thought the same thing with Spider-Man and Spider-Man Homecoming or even Spider-Verse. And that didn't seem like they really did much with
yeah,
those films.
I mean,
Yeah.
I think if it takes place inside of its own universe, I don't necessarily see the problem with paying as the old crew, especially since, like, I mean, you could see a universe where they actually go so far, like, later that this is, like, movies are sort of like, here's our new universe. If you want a little bit of nostalgia, you can go back to the old crew with the video game.
right.
So it just depends on when that
these
game is
people
out.
you've loved for decades. I guess you can play as them. I know they're old, but
What's this guy's name? Ironman?
We don't really Skype him in. Spencer from Clifton, New Jersey says, hey, what game has the best tutorial? Simple question.
man, it's a good question.
I know that Blizzard are like the most talented game developers in the world, realistically, and they consider Plants vs. Zombies to be the greatest tutorial of all time. Like they said in some video about designing Hearthstone's tutorial, which is also very good, that their main inspiration was the Plants vs. Zombies tutorial.
Yeah.
They said it's like top tier.
Plants vs. Zombies is good because you feel like you're just playing the game.
Right.
Which I was going to bring up what Call of Duty. There was, I think, the first or second Modern Warfare where you're just running through the house and you're shooting cardboard like standees, but it's like so intense and it's fun. Like I remember going back and replaying that like training mission several times.
Because the cardboard standees are like walking towards you slowly or something.
Shoot him! They're gonna get me! And now I have a fear of cardboard standees.
Don't look behind you, Reeves. Samus wants to say hi.
I really like Advanced Wars, the first one.
Of course.
That has a really long-winded tutorial, but they make enough of a story out of it where you're having like there's a character named Nell who's basically running Andy, the main character, through the ropes of like here's what this unit does, and they have like a ton of missions that are all like fun to play in and of themselves. And then the good part is that like once you've actually learned it, if you want to go back through the campaign again, you can just skip all of that and start right at the mission where without sort of too much tutorialization.
Yeah. What did you think? Because you reviewed Wargroove, right?
Yeah.
What did you think about that crazy update they had that seemed to fix like a lot of people's complaints about the difficulty and checkpointing? And
I mean, they had difficulty stuff in there but it was very granular. So now I think you've added sort of presets of like easy, normal, hard. I didn't have too much of a problem with sort of the difficulty. It definitely gets hard towards the end. I think the checkpoint stuff is really good because like even though I appreciated the tension. That was one of those things where it's like, man, there are a couple missions here where I would have really appreciated a checkpoint.
Yeah.
And then they made the sort of counter chart basically of like, hey, if you click on a unit and you say, here's what this unit is vulnerable to, they made that a lot more readable, which I think is another great feature. And I think they've added sort of the ability to put AI opponents into online play. So now you can just, hey, it's me and my friend and like 2 other computers, and that's totally fine.
Comstop.
Yeah.
Cool.
So yeah, that game has gotten like even better than when it came out, which is
yeah.
Really cool.
That stuff where like the checkpoints are the biggest thing for me. I've been playing that game, and like some of those missions get to be an hour plus,
Yeah.
and you can like blow it all in one turn because you accidentally like leave your commander in a spot. Even with like full health, they'll just like gang charge you or whatever, and then it's like over.
Yeah.
in one turn.
You can definitely make decisions that you realize as soon as you make them. They're like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm screwed. Now they're gonna gang charge me.
And I hate getting gang charged.
Anyway, that game is good. It's a good game. You should play it.
It's a great game. What do you think you're trying to say?
I know the other thing that I almost said. That's why I didn't say it.
If you've never watched our Smash Brothers documentary that we made a long time ago, when you guys got the Guinness World Record for playing Smash Brothers, you can find it by searching on YouTube for like Smashed Game Informer. But in that video, Reeves has been up for like 30 hours playing Smash Brothers, and he's trying to say the phrase free for all, and he cannot think of it, and it is the funniest thing because he just is staring directly to the camera, and the best he comes up with is 4 up for all.
Because it's like 4-player.
Yeah, no, look, I get it. It's so silly.
It's pretty good.
Drew from Baton Rouge, Louisiana says, "What's the smartest thing you know?"
I know if you had a bullet-sized object that was as dense as a neutron star, it would sink all the way to the core of the Earth. Also, if you tried to touch it, it would like suck all the blood out of your body.
What? Do you have one?
Yeah, you want to see it?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, can I touch it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. I
got that from What If.
Is that a book?
The book, yeah.
Oh, okay. I once learned that tectonic plates move the same speed as your fingernails, and I said that's a very helpful thing to know when thinking about the
What
Earth.
speed do my fingernails move at?
This fast? Yeah!
My eye!
No, like that they grow, I should have said.
Oh.
Yeah, that seems crucial. Also, you ready for this? God, I learned this in college, and I said, that is the smartest thing. God, we're so effing smart as human beings. And maybe it's not that smart, you tell me. But studying language, like the history of languages, you can use languages to figure out what cultures and civilizations had what technology at what time, which is insane. So Proto-Indo-European, it's like this culture / language, right? Where it's like, okay, it started around this area of the globe. We know the technology that civilization had, because even though they all then spread out, right, to the rest of Eurasia and all that stuff, whatever languages are branched off that, if their words for these objects or tools are similar enough, then we know that base culture had it.
had that tool.
Do you understand? So
Yeah.
depending on how related the words are for these different languages, you know the original civilization before it branched out their level of technology, which is such a fun, clever idea.
Yeah.
That's actually stupid.
I think it was Radiolab where they recently did a thing where they tried to find out what's the first word.
Oh.
They kind of, I don't know if you want to spoil it.
The.
But it's the.
Oh. Wait, I thought it was...
Dada.
Wait, what was the word? Gang?
It's like dead.
Gang charge.
Gang charge is the first word of planet Earth.
It used to be a
Cavemen.
single word, yeah.
There's gang charge in each
A gang charge.
They too were mad about those checkpoints in Wargroove.
They were not happy. It was
Hazel,
much harder before that patch.
Hazel Muhammad from Tampa, Florida says, "Hello, crew. With all the woes Anthem has been experiencing for the past few weeks, it made me think about games that I eventually felt sorry for due to circumstances. Just off the top of my head, I thought of the following. Persona 5, I feel sorry for being the only person to complete it. Yeah, that's... I don't believe you, but...
I finished. I saw the credits.
So Mass Effect 3, he feels sorry for the kaleidoscope ending. Yeah. Why
Sure.
did the game do it to itself? That was a bad call. Dead Space 3, feel sorry for it for going the Resident Evil 5 route and ultimately dooming a great series. Tim Terry gave it 9.75. Titanfall 2 for EA higher-ups not being able to read a calendar. Very funny. Metal Gear Solid 5 for Konami needing money to pay off the Yakuza instead of Kojima Productions. I don't know about that. That's allegedly. That's what you're supposed to say when you're on a mic, right?
Yeah.
Yakuza 0 and Yakuza 6 for being ignored by Game Informer for past game clubs. And Devil May Cry 5 for being ignored by Game Informer for a future game club. Yeah, that's true. Do you guys ever feel sorry for games?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to bring up Mass Effect. I also feel bad for No Man's Sky, just for like how it got gang charged
By the internet.
By the internet, yeah, it was just ridiculous. I don't think it was a perfect game, but I also don't think it deserved like the heat that it got.
But on both ends, it didn't
Right.
deserve the hype that it got.
Oh, yeah,
and
yeah,
so
yeah.
therefore it didn't deserve.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. What, like Crackdown, Leo? Do you feel sorry for Crackdown?
A little bit. I mean, that's a tough story because we don't know what really happened. You know, watching those E3 demos, it's just a different game.
Yeah.
Until suddenly it comes out and it's this. So I don't feel exactly sorry for it. You know,
Right,
People give it crap because it deserves it.
And when we say it, we just mean the developers, or are we talking about some vague concept of an entity known as the game? Do we feel sorry for Mass Effect Andromeda, or do we feel sorry for BioWare for having released Mass Effect Andromeda?
I feel more sorry for the developers, but
Yeah, for sure. Like Fallout 76, at a certain point it becomes, man, wouldn't it suck to work at Bethesda right now? And just log on and see nothing but people dumping on your last couple of years of your life.
right.
Oh yeah.
I like the idea of feeling sorry for a game though too. Like I feel sorry for the game that is No Man's Sky in a way that I don't feel sorry for Fallout 76.
Sure, yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Christian from Seattle says, "Hello, crew. I've been mainly on PlayStation since it came out, but I'm not a fanboy." Okay. Relax.
All right.
Currently, I have a PS4 Pro, Xbox One S, and a Switch. My PC can play older games good, but needs an upgrade.
Right.
Sounds kind of like a fanboy to me.
A little bit. With how the industry is, Game Pass and all first-party games on Windows 10, PlayStation Now on Windows, and tons of non-console games on PC, makes me think, next gen may be the first time I don't buy in. Instead of buying a PlayStation or Xbox, I'm thinking I could just upgrade my PC and then just play my Nintendo Switch. What do you guys think about that? Is there any downside to just not buying the next generation? Do we even need it?
Red Dead Redemption 3.
Of course.
Yeah.
There we go.
There'll be stuff like that. We don't know what Sony's planning. There could be like, if you're looking forward to the next Naughty Dog game, there might be stuff like that you won't get to play.
I would imagine that's probably the case. Yeah.
Right.
And Microsoft's lineup of exclusive titles.
Like Crackdown 3.
Oh, wait, they come out on PC too now, so.
Yeah, that's the
Never
thing.
mind.
And even like there's an announcement this week, which is very exciting, that the Master Chief Collection's coming to PC, specifically on Steam, which is so awesome.
That's fantastic.
Oh my God! Now they need to get Age of Empires 1 Definitive Edition on Steam as well. Like, get all that Microsoft over there, please.
Anthem.
Yes, actually, that would be a nice, different case, but absolutely. I think you're fine. And like, yeah, the Naughty Dog example or other, amazing first-party Sony studios. If you can borrow a system from a friend for 1 week or something,
Or
like,
if that's just not like your type of game, like in general, like
yeah,
you can maybe skip out on
Yeah.
it.
I mean, if you can be patient, you can buy a used console in like
Yeah.
5 years and get all those good games.
yeah.
For cheap.
Yeah.
The games will be cheap too.
Save it for when you retire. Christian from Seattle says he really loved the music in the Outer Worlds episode of this podcast, and he's wondering if it's from the game. No, it is not. That's from YouTube's music library, random sci-fi stuff. So they didn't have any music from the game ready yet. So I'm sorry. Riley from Issaquah, Washington says, quick question for you. What is your day-to-day work like in the
Washington
office?
accent.
What is your day-to-day work like in the office? I'm curious what a normal day looks like for a journalist. Suriel, walk us through your day-to-day, leaving out specifics if you could be so kind.
Well, I wake up at around.
Nope. In the office. Here we go.
It's a lot more email than I think most people expect. A lot of very important things come down to answering an email.
What kind of email?
It's like this segment all day.
Yeah, exactly.
As much fun.
Yeah, I usually like to read aloud the name of the person saying it and to say, this person writes in from.
Yeah.
It's very annoying.
It's a cacophony in the office. Yeah.
But a lot of it is email. A lot of it is we have like a morning meeting every day, basically, where we talk about what we're gonna do for that day and sort of what's going up on the site, things like that.
We call it the 10:30 meeting.
Yeah.
Because it's at 10:30.
Yeah.
It's a clever
the stand-up
name.
meeting.
Yes.
And then usually write something. If you're news, you're sort of looking out at sort of various feeds to see what news might be coming up, and either that or you're working on a long-term feature, doing research, things like that. Or you're like, or you're sometimes you're just in the office playing a game because you kind of know there are other things sort of in the pipe that you kind of have to be in the office for, proofing the magazine depending on what you're like, sort of where we are in the timeline there.
There's always gigantic pages of the magazine floating around that Leo and I just laugh at because we don't have to read it and proof it because we're Venny boys.
I don't even have to learn how to read.
It's fun. I love this kind of specific stuff. So it's like, all right, let's see. We had the 10:30 meeting, learned a little bit, then some prep time for some stuff, and then Suriel, you and I talked about a future upcoming trip that's interesting that we can't reveal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then after that, record a New Gameplay Today episode for Yoshi with Nathan the intern.
Did it just for him. Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. He was on it. It was great. And then we sat around for how long talking about potential rapid fire questions for the next cover story? That was all of us.
45 minutes?
Yeah.
45 minutes maybe of just
It
spitballing
almost
ideas.
felt like longer, but yeah.
Which those are super fun.
It was super fun. There were some very bad ideas and some very fun ideas. And then went through emails and then basically popped on here.
Yeah.
That's it, baby. And then I'm
We're good.
recording an interview after this. There we go.
I usually spend a good part of my day standing behind Kyle, making fun of him
Yeah,
while he plays whatever game
It's
he's
very
playing.
important.
that's true. Yeah.
So
While he's
a
playing
lot of
One
heckling
Piece.
time.
Yep. Eating Kyle's jelly beans.
Yep.
Yeah, that's it. Leo, you're working on control videos, right?
Yes.
How's that going?
It's been good. Yeah, when I am working on a cover story like this, I take breaks every once in a while because I'm more productive if I've taken a break, and those breaks become filled with just other minor things to do. Like I just
what?
have notes of 100 things to do in my journal, which I would completely have lost this job already if I didn't keep one every single day.
Yeah.
But just like stuff I need to re-promote or little things in the back end I need to manage, like redoing those images for the Super Replay.
Oh, yeah.
Just like tons of minor stuff like that.
very boring
That's
little stuff. Also, I saw you wrote down penitent. Penitent man will pass repeatedly. I don't know why that's in your journal, but
Yeah.
that seems cool.
All work, no play.
Adam Howard says, with several game podcasts and other entertainment podcasts going to audio only, I am more and more appreciative of Andy McNamara and his decision to keep Game Informer somewhere other than LA or San Francisco. Yeah, that seems nice. So in full gratitude to Andy and Reiner, say something nice about them.
Aw.
Oh.
What do you guys got?
About their work ethic?
Either.
I think they're good at...
Let's get specific.
Well, that was going to be specific in terms of like they're good at sort
Pick a different one.
Oh, okay, they're bad at
All right, warmer.
showing, picking like seeing what's on the horizon and like saying like this is going to be good and like this is worth covering.
For a cover story.
Yeah, well, Andy does a lot of that stuff. I think he usually knows. He has a good way to sort of read the temperature of a game pretty quickly, and he knows if it's going to be good or bad. He actually would, in the day, walk around the office and like when people were reviewing a game, he would like say, "Oh, yeah, that's going to be an 8." He would usually be pretty close too.
You would whisper it in your ear.
Wait, and then he would grab your hand and write it down on your paper for reviewing it. I was saying get specific on like Andy versus Reiner, head to head.
Yeah.
No, but
Would
like
win a fight?
I
Is
think
that
we've
what
talked
you-
about it before. Oh, that's a good question actually. Reiner has a chance.
He's got the
Andy's
reach.
got a lot more athletic recently though.
That's true. Yeah, right. I don't know. I might take Reiner.
I think what
in
we
that.
can all agree on is that we need to see this happen, right?
Absolutely.
All Reiner eats is vegetables.
Old Reiny's
Oh,
vegetables.
Reiner, vegetable man. He's like a giant green bean.
I feel like I've said this before, but I'm always jealous of like Reiner's enthusiasm. The fact that he's been in this job for 6,000 years and he's still like excited about games. Like, oh boy, game's coming out. Like, it's sincere as hell.
When he has a family now, you would think he'd have no time, but he still like manages to play like every game ever. And
Zero time for the family,
Yeah.
as far as I understand.
Oh, I feel bad for his family.
Also with Andy McNamara, I've said it before, but it comes through a lot when he hosts the podcast. But his humility, I think, is just amazing. Like, he truly hates himself, and it's really a sight to behold. But also, it's kind of fun to work for a character. Not that he's like Mickey Mouse or something, but like when people talk about Andy, it's like he's a character, and it's like, yes, he has a bit of a character, isn't he? And
Gordon Freeman.
That's right.
Doesn't say
Silent
anything at all.
lately, yeah.
For Reiner, I'll say his work ethic. Always
Yes.
puts in the hours.
That's true.
Start of this year, he had the resolution to write a feature every single day.
Yes.
For the year, and like no one's gonna call Reiner on not writing enough or anything. The position he's in, he doesn't have to work as hard as he does. But he
Yes.
does.
That's
And I
very
respect
true.
that. But Andy, he's good at not getting caught up in the hype. People like to throw shade every once in a while about getting paid off for reviews or whatever. But boy, never heard a man dump on Red Dead Redemption 2 harder than that guy every day in the bullpen.
No hype here, sir.
Yeah.
Hey, good times.
I think Andy's really good about like just being able to be up on like the culture of games as well, of just being
Yeah.
like, you would think that for someone who's been in it as long as he has,
Totally.
for a lot of people in his age would feel like, I don't know about these Twitch kids or whatever, but he's like on that ball like more
Yeah.
so than like a lot of people in this office. honestly.
Absolutely.
100%.
Yeah.
Not
he'll-
only streaming, but like esports, all that stuff.
Yeah. I've heard him say the name Nate Shot more than anybody else in the world combined.
More
Yeah.
than Nate Shot's mom.
Yes, absolutely. I'll call him
Refuses
Nate
to call him.
Shot.
One thing I also like is they're very positive about just the industry as a whole, and they really like games. There's not
Yeah.
a lot of cynicism there, which I really appreciate.
Sure, yeah. James Hicks, also good lookers.
Oh, man.
Boom. Just tall drinks of
Yeah,
water.
that's right.
Wing, wing.
James Hicks writes
They wear
in-
shoes every day.
That's true. Did we get a raise yet? We're really stretching. James Hicks. Oh, here's a random thought here. I was thinking and I've come to a conclusion that led me to an idea, and I'd like to see you guys' opinions on it. The thought. If you really boil it down to the core in games like Dead Cells, the fun mostly comes from finding and trying out new gear combinations for the purposes of surviving longer by killing enemies and defeating yourself more efficiently.
That's a very simple way to put it.
Defending yourself more efficiently. Whereas in games like Apex Legends, the fun mostly comes from finding and trying out new gear combinations for the purposes of surviving longer by killing enemies and defending yourself more efficiently with a team against other players. The conclusion. While roguelites and battle royales are very different styles of games, they share more or less the same core gameplay loops. The idea, would a battle royale with a randomized map be cool? It's a weird conclusion ultimately.
Yes.
Sure.
Do you
think it
think
could be.
people will do it just for a good marketing bullet point of here's how our battle royale is different?
I don't think it'll be a battle royale in the sense that we think of them as like a shooter. I think it'll be a different genre because I think
Really?
I think if you were to ask and this is just me like talking out of my ass, like the idea of creating a randomized map I think sounds very difficult in like that kind of space.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that stuff, I think it would be unfun for a lot of people to sort of be screwed over by the map. I think the map is one of the things that I think has to stay a little bit more static. But
You're
I think,
a Dota boy. You get
yeah.
it.
But like in a
Doo-doo boy?
2D in a 2D environment, I think that people would be more amenable to sort of like here's sort of a lot of pre-constructed rooms and stuff.
Huh.
Interesting.
Are you
versus-
saying a 3D map would have problems where you couldn't pass certain areas?
No, I'm not saying like I'm sure that algorithmically they could make a map that is physically navigable, but I think that there would just be like, well, they just happen to have the high ground in this encounter, and for a reason that I couldn't have foreseen, right? Like in something like Battle Royale or Apex Legends, you can say I know where this part of the map leads to eventually, but if it was a thing where, well, that's just a thing that a random occurrence that happened, they had an advantage that they only are going to have this once, right?
That is a part of battle royales, though. Also, is like,
That's
well,
true.
I didn't get the loot. Well, the two squads came around the corner at the same time, and they both saw me.
Yeah.
I just think that like the map, I think it would be like when you have bad loot, you can say, okay, I can work around this. I have a Mozambique, but if I can play this right, I can do it.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like the map feels, even if it's not necessarily, it feels a little bit more out of your control. Of like, well, I just didn't like. I dropped in a location, but when the map is static, you know when you can drop, where you can drop, versus like if this is all random, like I don't even know where I'm supposed to drop.
Yeah.
At this point.
For sure. William from Melbourne, Australia says, hello, Ben and crew. Which of these do you think will be more culturally relevant in 10 years? Mighty Number 9 or Mambo Number 5?
Probably Mambo.
Yeah,
Gotta be Mambo.
Yeah,
Mambo.
I feel like it's already more relevant.
Mambo number 5 is number 1. For sure.
Remember when they announced, or they had that Kickstarter for like the Mega Man Legends spiritual successor called like Red Ash?
Oh,
Yeah.
what?
And then they eventually got the funding for it, and that was supposed to be in the Mighty Number 9 universe, and they just have not said a word.
Oof.
That funding's just buried in a treasure chest out back or something. Isn't that weird? Isn't that weird?
Isn't that
Yeah.
weird?
Weird.
Weird.
How much money did that guy make from Mambo number 5? What was his name?
Mambo.
Mr. Mambo.
The fifth.
Bodega?
Larry Bodega.
John Bodega? Anyways, Jimmy's from Springfield, Ohio, sure, says, hey, first a few things here. Mayo and grilled cheese, yes. I know it sounds gross, but mayo on a peanut butter sandwich, also. Add bacon, yes. That's insane. You're a lunatic.
You're not welcome to write it anymore.
The greatest piece of art ever is Seinfeld.
Huh.
Okay.
Leo, funny boy himself, doesn't like Seinfeld?
No.
What
At
is
all?
not to like about Seinfeld?
I just don't laugh at it.
Really?
I was sitting with my friends back when I had a house with a bunch of my friends, had a
Yeah.
few friends over. Let's watch some Seinfeld. Dead silence.
Were your friends asleep?
I found out they had died hours earlier.
Which really just kind of ruined all the episodes you watched.
Yeah,
after that.
every time you try and go back and watch it, I understand. Also, he says last week someone asked about the lowest scores given. His name was Corbin from Dallas. Apparently, that was a Fifth Element reference, and I completely missed it, and we all did. 'Cause apparently, Corbin Dallas is the main character from that movie that no one caught. It's very clever. Let's see. Oh, here's a thought. The greatest work of art. Hang on.
Mambo
I'm
number
sorry.
5.
I don't have the name of this person, but they're great. They say the greatest work of art in human history is episode 8 of Twin Peaks: The Return.
Yeah, I could get behind that.
Okay,
good.
all right. That's one of the atomic bomb and all that crazy
Yeah.
stuff going on. Let's see. Jason from Knoxville says it's grilled cheese made with mayonnaise instead of butter. That was a recurring theme. Yep, absolutely. Zemanuel Rocha says, I started watching the show when Ben went to the Easy Allies podcast. Thank you. And the greatest piece of art of all time is
The Easy Allies podcast.
nope, the Sony 2016 E3 press conference. Very good.
Oh, that
I
one.
made a highlight cut of that when I was interning here.
Oh.
And it was very easy because, boy, they did a lot.
Yeah.
Did a lot of stuff, had some cool music.
Which one was that? Was that,
That was
when
the
they announced Final
orchestral
Fantasy?
one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was 2015, I believe.
Oh, okay.
This is the orchestral one where they announced
God
like
of
the
War.
big God of War opening and stuff.
Oh.
Yeah. They announced
Hideo Kojima came out on the light walk.
And
but
his
he got
timing was
Yeah,
off.
see, that's
That
the thing,
one.
because it's not perfect. Is
Oh,
it
that-
still the greatest work of art? Because clearly one point at least was messed up.
No
when
piece of
Kojima
art is
walked out.
perfect.
Great art is flawed.
it showed the humanity in that design. You're totally
True.
right.
Reflects humanity.
Now I regret my words and deeds.
Humanity has fallen from light.
God, I want to do.
This is a good podcast.
That is really good.
Smart stuff.
Let's see. Bob from Raleigh, North Carolina says the greatest work of art of all time is, he said, this joke from Ben Hansen with a timestamp. And I'm sorry, this is very self-indulgent, but I clicked on the timestamp like, I need to know what he's talking about. And it was the episode where, for some reason, I forgot this happened, where we interviewed the actor that plays Hodor.
Oh, yeah. I know what you're
Yeah.
going to say.
Yeah, and then he said that he's not into programming, and I said, you're not a Kodor. And he was very confused. Did not like it. Nigel
Great
Hart-
art is not appreciated.
You're right, and it's time. Nigel Hart from Lexington, Kentucky says, hey, I have a few recommendations for the greatest work of all time. Last time I wrote in and said that it was One Piece. I was only half serious, though. Realistically, the greatest work of all time has to be
All peace.
Michael
2 pieces.
Michael Jackson's greatest hit album. That's a little touchy
that-
these days.
Did he write then after the recent stuff?
He
Finding
specifies
Neverland.
only
The recent
after the
stuff.
recent stuff.
Yeah.
You mean the part where he
What
died?
with the recent stuff and all, I will say Michael Jackson's greatest hits
Oh, that
album.
reminds me.
Asterisk.
Recent stuff from 1993.
Yeah, exactly.
He says Kanye's My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy or the original Star Wars trilogy.
Two very comparable
Oh, you're not a
works.
Star Wars fan?
I am, but calling it the greatest work of art of all time, it's just some fun movies.
So you hate it?
No, come on. It's better than Seinfeld. No, that's not true. I love Seinfeld. The other John writes in and says that it's Disney's Fantasia. Interesting take. Tyler C writes in and says it's skateboarding videos.
Yes.
Oh, that's a pretty
Yes.
good one, actually.
Absolutely, because you got music, you've got skateboarding, which is an art form,
Visuals.
and lots of skate videos. You know, you'll see them grinding on
Uh-huh.
statues. You know.
Oh,
That
they
love-
include other works of
Oh,
art.
Exactly.
Interesting.
Art on art with art in the background,
You're right.
and then the artful presentation, the cinematography.
Of people getting hit in the
Honestly,
I
junk.
love skate videos.
It's up there.
right.
Number
Yeah.
one skate video? Does one come to mind? Put you on
It's
the
called
spot.
God, what is it called?
Bloopers of Gearbox skateboarding in the parking lot on YouTube.
Yeah.
I like the skateboarding video where it's called God, what was it called? It's called Who Won E3. And it was released last year. It's a really good video.
Yes, sir. All right.
I'm gonna find it out
Please
because
do.
I watched it with my friends and it was amazing.
Jordan from Texas says, hey, it's not music, but the greatest work of art of all time is obviously mankind's invention of musical notes. You think there's something to that?
I feel like that is a testament to music, which should be the like. I feel like creating notes is like sort of deferring to the. It was like chronicling the act of music, right?
Right.
Of like stratifying it basically. So I feel like that is in service to an even greater work of art, which is music.
But
yeah,
he
why
says
wouldn't you
they're-
just say music?
Because he says they're a visual representation of sound, which is itself pretty ingenious. But moreover, musical notes aren't just a general representation of sound, but a super specific set of representations that can be arranged in a practically infinite number of compositions.
Oh, I get it. So he's saying the like writing down
Notation.
Yeah.
the notation. I
It's
get
a
it now.
good entry. I really
Yeah.
think that's strong.
That's smart.
Al-
It's fancy lads. Is this skateboarding?
So people can look that up.
Yes, which may specifically be the greatest work of art of all time.
Okay, interesting. Alec writes in and says that it's Planet Earth, not the concept, but the TV series or Blue
Oh.
Planet.
Oh.
And like
Sure.
realistically, that's pretty good.
Yeah,
That one's
It's
good.
really up there.
I would accept that.
Okay, great. And Leo is the arbiter, as everybody
That's
knows.
right.
Is there skateboarding in that?
Yeah, we're humans or animals.
It's true. They have one set in the city, I remember, for like Planet
Yeah.
Earth 2. There's
Yeah.
probably skateboarding in that one. Dan W. from Boston has a very good email. I saw this and I said, oh, I love podcast at GameInformer.com. How good. How good.
I heard him do that when
Yes.
I saw it. I heard it very audible. Oh,
Here we go. He says, hey, I'm a huge fan. Thank you. This is his first time writing in. He gets in out of the gate with this.
Oh my gosh.
He says, let's play The Price is Right. Below is a list of 8 video game items, the games in which they appear, and the currency required to purchase them in the game. The crew has to guess the price of the item in that game. Per Price is Right rules, whoever guesses closest to the actual price without going over wins the round. Ready?
Okay.
It's good.
The item, 1 star. The game, Mario Party 1. The currency, coins. How much does a star cost in Mario Party 1 in coins? Oh,
Wait, we have to
Actually,
buzz in
tap
first?
on your mic.
Tap
Okay,
in.
great. Okay, so Leo.
20.
Leo says 20. Serial.
19.
19.
Because it's 20.
100.
The answer is 20 coins. Did you
Oh
know
my
that?
Yes. I
Wait, Leo, you just knew that?
I was pretty sure. I wasn't.
Yeah.
100%.
And Serial, you were 100% on that?
yes.
For Mario Party 1?
If Leo hadn't had said 20, I would have said 20.
That's amazing. Okay, here we go.
from Giant Bomb's Mario Party series.
Oh, of course.
Big
That's
fan.
where they're featured and nowhere else.
The item.
I don't play it.
The item is First Aid Spray. The game, Resident Evil 4. The currency, pesetas?
I don't even remember that there was currency in that game.
First aid spray.
Yep. Oh,
Is
reads.
this how it works?
Yes, this is how it works.
20.
20 pesetas.
Uh-huh.
I'm going to guess 7,500.
7,500 pesetas.
Ah.
That seems way too high.
100.
100. Leo takes it. 5,000 pesetas.
Aren't I closer?
Wait, what'd you say?
7,500.
You went over.
You went over.
Oh,
Price is Right rules, baby. Here we go. All right, the standard Pokeball from Pokemon Red and Blue. Currency, Pokemon dollars, which I don't know if that's... yes.
Simoleons.
I tell you what, just go ahead and say your name.
Ben.
Okay, thank you.
20.
20 Pokemon dollars.
100.
100, says Surreal.
200.
Leo Vader, 200 Pokemon dollars on the nose.
Oh, that's surprising.
On the nose
I was going to
pass.
guess 250, but I didn't want to go over.
That's crazy. A Hylian Shield in Ocarina of Time. Currency is rupees.
Bleo.
Bleo?
300.
300 rupees. Hylian Shield.
Go 180.
180.
One of my favorite skateboard tricks.
I'll go 301.
I'm sorry, you have all overbid.
Oh my gosh.
Nice.
20.
Oh, we're doing
Throw
it again?
Yep, throw it out there.
80.
That's 60.
Leo Vader, it's 80 rupees! That's insane!
Are you making this up now?
No,
Oh
I'm
my
really
God.
not. Okay.
is going on?
The item is a Phoenix Down in Final Fantasy VII. As
Okay.
everybody knows, the currency is Gil. How much is a Phoenix Down in Final Fantasy VII? Surreal.
3,000.
3,000 Gil.
1,000.
1,000 Gil.
1,500.
You've all overbid.
Oh.
Wow. 1,000? Or is that what the...
That counts. Lock it
Right
in.
on! You got it! No.
500.
500.
700.
700.
I'll go 200.
Oh, $200. That is Ben Reeves. $300 is the correct choice.
Cha-ching.
I'm waiting for the only correct Price is Right choice for saying a price of something here. I don't want to...
Well, I mean, Leo did it. Or
69?
no, he said 100, right? Which is basically one.
No, it's not basically
Well, you
one.
do
can
one
say
over.
one.
Yeah.
Anyways, Bloodborne. The item is the Kirkhammer. Currency is souls.
Now we're getting into some things I have no chance at.
How many souls does it take to buy the Kirkhammer in Bloodborne?
There you go. I don't know. You guys were looking
Surreal.
at me.
Yeah,
5,600?
Go, dude.
5,600.
5,600.
Leo? 2,000.
2,000?
One.
One soul. Ben Reeves sitting back like a champ. The winner is Leo Vader. It is $3,000. I'm sorry, 3,000 souls.
What'd
Sold
you
off.
say?
I need to go on Price is Right.
Yeah, no kidding. That's incredible. All right, final game. Here we go.
Okay, here we go.
The item is a teddy bear. The game, Earthbound. Currency, dollars. How much does a teddy bear cost in dollars in Earthbound?
30?
Cereal. $30, says Cereal.
20.
$20.
I could get used to this. I'm going to go 31.
What was your answer?
30.
30. Ben Reeves, the price of a teddy bear in Earthbound is $178. Congratulations.
Good-ass
Hey,
teddy
Dan
bear.
W. from Boston. Way to go.
Well done,
That's
Leo.
Way to go.
Thanks for
Leo,
playing.
killing it. What do you guys like for email of the week?
That's a pretty good one.
Yeah, I feel like you always save those like fun games for the end. But
And then they're
we-
disqualified because we can't just pick the last one.
we love those the most, but
I mean, unquestionably, that's the best email that we got
Yeah.
here, right? Does anybody have anything else to say?
I think we had a lot of fun today.
All right, fantastic. That is Dan W. from Boston. Congratulations, Boston. Putting it up on the big old board. Way to go, Boston. God's country.
And now we say Boston facts.
And now we say Boston facts.
home,
In
of the,
Massachusetts.
home of the grilled cheese, Boston, Massachusetts.
Hold on. These are boring.
Boston was actually named after a town in England.
Oh, Old
Yeah.
Boston?
Old Boston.
Okay, that's pretty
England.
Happy hours are against the law.
good.
In
Really?
old Boston, Massachusetts.
I didn't know that. I didn't even look it up, but I know that like the roads in Boston were set because of their old cow paths. That's why they're all windy and terrible.
People still ride cows to and from work in Boston.
Boston was the home of the first U.S. chocolate factory.
There was no Christmas in Boston between 1659 and 1681.
Why?
Well, funny you should ask. The Pilgrims believed it was a corrupt holiday and banned any celebrations during that time period.
Really? Well, I bet those pilgrims were real pains in the asses back then. Oh, man. Hey, Boston, welcome to the big boy.
Apparently, all their kids were bad.
Yeah. More like pilgrimaces.
Here we go. Here we go. Thank you so much for writing into podcastgameinformer.com, everybody. As for now, do you want to learn all about the development of one of the best games, I argue, from last year, Astrobot Rescue Mission?
Yeah.
From the game's director himself?
Do it.
As long as you don't dwell on VR and just get right to what makes that game so special.
Absolutely. Here it is. Nicolas Doucet, welcome to the Game Informer Show, sir.
Hello, hello. Thank you very much for having me.
Oh my gosh, it's an honor to have you. So it was a busy time last year when I actually played Astrobot, and I played it all in one sitting, and I just had the best time. We talked about it a ton on this podcast. It's an honor to have you, but I wanted to talk to you back then. It didn't quite work out, and now you're giving a GDC presentation, so it's like, the perfect time to catch up and finally get you on the show, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Is it an honor to give a presentation at GDC, or what's that communication like?
Yeah, totally. I mean, we've been I've been going to GDC for a few years, and I did a talk once, but it was a kind of a different kind of sponsored talk about the research we're doing for ESVR at the time. But it's the first time we get to go really to talk about one of the games that our team has made. So it's it's huge as well, and it's been there's been some nice reactions to the game. So it's also a little bit kind of daunting because I want to make sure that we tell people things they really want to hear.
You can't mess up. I mean, no one's going to boo you in that crowd. It's all just game developers that really look up to the game you made. But I assume a lot of people playing Astrobot had the same reaction of just the unbelievable level of quality throughout that entire experience. It's like, where did this come from? Who made this? Look up the credits. Like, I've never heard that name before. Trying to dig into your history. Where do you come from, sir? What's your backstory in the industry?
Okay, so I'll talk a little bit about me, but most importantly about the team, because I think that's obviously
sure.
So I'm French. I was born in the 70s in France, and I moved to London when I was 18 years old. And a little bit by accident, I ended up working in video games. I mean, I love video games from a very young age, but I ended up working as a QA and making my way through various companies like Eidos, EA, and things like that. But then I ended up working at Lego for a bit. And at the time, Lego were making family games. It was the beginning of Lego as we know it today, right?
So is this like
before.
Is this like Lego Island era, or like what era?
Yeah. That kind of time. Lego Races, Lego Island. So it was still kind of like family, a lot of PC games and stuff like that. But the Lego as a company was really important because for me, it kind of put down the foundations of actually family gaming is really enjoyable to make. And it's enjoyable to watch people, play together. I stayed there for a few years, and then eventually moved to a Sony London studio. So that's the moment I entered PlayStation. That was 2004. And at that time, London studio were experimenting with cameras, and something that ended up with, being iToy. And actually, from Lego to iToy, there was it was the same kind of field. I was expecting it to be like very different. I was entering a real game company in a way. But in fact, the philosophy of the company and the way we were making games and the audiences we were dealing with were very, very similar. It was all about making accessible, content and things like that. So I worked some years in London studio, and especially doing some augmented reality with a game called iPad. So those games, iToy, iPad, they were particularly popular, I think, in European regions.
Yeah, pretty ahead of their time too.
Yeah. And later on, then in 2011, I transferred over to Japan. So I've asked for that transfer. I really wanted to go to Japan. It's a long kind of love story since I was a kid. We grew up playing all these Japanese games, and there's a real kind of love story. And so when I arrived in Japan, it was the beginning of the research towards PlayStation 4. It was the console wasn't made yet, but there was some kind of like ideas of what the controller might be like, the new camera and things like that. And that was the opportunity to build together a new team. So I'm coming to answer your question now. The team is called Asobi Team.
Yeah.
And that team exists since 2012. And so the name Asobi, it's a Japanese word that means to play. It's the verb to play. And I picked that word because going back to Lego, I don't know if you know, like the word Lego is a combination of two words in Danish that means to play well. And it was really interesting because it was this kind of concept of playing, fundamental playing, the fun of playing was running really, really deep in the company history. And I wanted to have a name for the team that would be iconic and that we'd never forget that we're here in the first place for the gameplay, for playing.
Yeah.
Right.
So the entire team was formed to create VR specifically, or just some stuff on the PlayStation 4?
So the team was at first working as a sort of R&D. So there's a lot of R&D happening inside, like video games and inside Sony particularly. And there's also a game team using this technology. And what we wanted to try and create would be a sort of in-between step where we would be a team that takes a lot of technology and plant seeds for, gameplay prototypes.
Yeah.
And share to other teams and inspire them. And so that's what we did in around 2012-13. And all of these prototypes ended up being actually something that is inside the PS4, which is called the Playroom. So our very first project was, in fact, the Playroom for PS4. And after that, we moved on to PSVR, which at the time was called Project Morpheus. And once again, we researched a lot of prototypes, and we came up with well, at first, like everyone, we knew nothing about VR, so we just tried lots of things. And eventually, one of the tests that we did was to control a virtual, little character like in a platformer. Because it wasn't obvious at first, when we got into VR, we were thinking the same as everybody. VR is all about first person.
Right.
Right? But in the end, we thought, hey, hang on a sec, but, moving that little character and becoming a team with that little guy, that's also first person, but that's way cooler because in a way, you get all of them, all of the kind of, you can reuse all the culture, all the pop culture from all these games for the last 30 years, plus the addition of VR.
Yeah, I remember hearing Gabe Newell talk about that one time, about just how an unexpected byproduct of VR when people are in it is that, people are really attracted to looking at small things. You would never think in the planning stages of a VR experience that is compelling. But even in Astrobot, having the character turn around and wave at you, it's like, something about this. I just want to reach out and just grab that forever.
That's right. So all of these little things, they appeared without us expecting it. And that's part of the prototyping process. Is you go into it thinking, okay, there's technology, we're going to be using it. You have a rough idea of what you want to achieve. But in the end, so many things you didn't expect come up. And, conversely, many things that you thought would be, taken for granted ended up not working because it's a different medium altogether.
Yeah, for sure. So the team itself, I think the anecdotal experience is like, I think it's a lot of like former Ape Escape developers. Is that who's making up Asobi, or what is the actual breakdown?
That's not true. Although some people, no, actually that's. So the team is partially brand new. These are the people from Playroom. A lot of them it was their first job in the industry. And later on, however, after Playroom was created, after Playroom VR was created, we strengthened the team internally, and so we did welcome people from other teams, from projects that were finished, such as Gravity, Days 2, or The Last Guardian. So it is a mix because that's the nature of a studio is that you bring people together, and some people move from projects to projects. But the core team, really, the people that are kind of really remain throughout, for the large majority, outside of myself and our art director, who is an ex-Liverpool studio person. So Wipeout and etc.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, for a lot of them, in fact, they're sort of, how would you say, born and bred from Asobi team. So it's quite a young team overall.
Okay, awesome.
First commercial game. For many of them, Astrobot is their first commercial game.
That is absurd. You want to talk about just the organization that you're working in? Like when you go to work every morning, how big is that building? How many other game development studios or like teams are within that building? What's it like over there?
So Japan Studio, it's not it's a studio that is separated from the head office of Sony, and so our team is 25. Astrobot at peak was 26 people.
Really?
And what happens is that you have a core team of about 15 people, and others come during the peak of the project and then go to other projects. So and the other teams have like their own kind of project. I can't really talk about what they're doing, but like this studio has their historical teams are, for example, the Siren team was one of them.
Oh, okay.
Which then doing the Gravity Rush series, and of course The Last Guardian was one of them too. And there's also of course tools teams, engine teams, and technology teams, and things like that.
Yeah. How often is a shoe swinging by?
Shoe, actually, quite often. It depends on the phase of the project. When we researched, so because we've been having two jobs in a way, we've been doing like a lot of R&D, creating those tech demos, and later we've been making games in production. In production, Shoe comes at the key stages. He comes early on, and he comes during every time we pass the big stages like alpha, beta, things like that. He what's great about Shoe is that he really wants to see the game, and he knows what we're making at every time. Regarding the R&D, that's much more frequent because during those days, sometimes we are the first team to touch the hardware for the first time. So in the presentation at GDC, I'm going to show a slide that has the prototypes of the DualShock 4, and you're going to see some crazy-looking controllers.
Oh my God! Can you give an example? Like, what does it look like?
So, there's lots of shapes. First, the form factor is only really locked at the end. So you have controllers that are usually based on the chassis from the previous controllers. So you take a DualShock 3, and then there would be a big board sticking out, and the board perhaps would have, like for example, the motion controller, or it would have the touchpad would be really big, because at first it's just a case of just deciding whether we want or don't want a touchpad. So we do lots of demos, and then we later on when the features are locked, then product designers we kind of really like minimize reduce the size and kind of fit inside it, a nice looking controller. So during that phase, we do invite our top management a lot, because a lot of the time it's the first time they will get to see how the tech they created ended up inside the game experience.
Have you always wanted to direct a platformer? Is that just every game designer's dream, is someday I would like to make a platforming game?
Personally, I never thought about it. I'm really glad. But I didn't think. I don't know. I have a little bit of a thing where I really separate the things that I love and the things that I work on. And that's why I've been working on family games. I loved the games that I made. I could look at them and really enjoy them and see people enjoying them, and I enjoy that. But I'm a gamer, and I played platformers and also like more hardcore stuff. And I think it was the first time that I was able to kind of do something that actually is really, 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 really close to my heart. And that felt really good. Although I'm always taking a little bit of distance, make sure that your personal likes can sometimes kind of blur your vision. Okay. Yeah, because if you like something too much, you might not be able to analyze when it's going the wrong path, the wrong way. But really, as of course, I've played platformers a lot, 2Ds, 3D ones, and being able to take all of that pop culture, if you like, of video games, and mix it with the new technology, and see where it takes us. That was really, really fun.
So what is the process like? So it's like, okay, we're going to expand from Playroom. We're going to do this whole experience now. Astrobot Rescue Mission. You are leading the team. Let's go for it. Are you just sitting back and doing more research, just replaying some of your favorite 3D platformers, taking a ton of notes, or what does it look like specifically for you?
Yeah. So specifically for me, actually, going back to playing old ones, it's like, I think they're kind of like, if you like, anchored enough in my brain so that, for the old ones, it's kind of, sometimes I go back and double check something, but introducing them to the young team, that's been quite important actually, because I mentioned earlier, some of them, they come from the generation of PS1 or PS2.
Sure.
And so you go back to them and, of course, retro gaming, and there's a lot of kind of, there's a retro gaming scene, not only that, but also there's a lot of old looking games that are made today, but these have been adapted, and kind of, it's important, I think, to go back and understand, deconstruct why something back in the 90s was a success, something back in the 2000s was a success. So I did over Christmas I remember like some of the designers, I gave them a pile of games, and it was like every format, and it's like all the classics of 3D platforming, and there was maybe some 2D, no, mostly 3D, and really kind of look at this, but don't copy and paste. The point isn't to just take what's in there and just like spit it out, redecorate it. The point is to understand what's fun about it, deconstruct that into some kind of values, and then reconstruct from those values using our own words and our own technology.
So what is it? What are the pillars that you see as the key to a good platformer then? What did you come away with?
So that's actually, part of the presentation I'm doing kind of touches on that. I think in no particular order, I think obviously the platformer, I think the platformer fundamentals, your character control and your jumping and your kind of like second gameplay is really, really important. I think the moment you touch, you start moving with a character, at that point whether you're going to connect with that character or not. There are so many examples of characters that instantly, the inertia, the weight of the character makes you feel like, oh, I'm forgetting that I'm holding the controller. It's almost like my hand is plugged directly into that world.
Right.
And some of them that are more like, when you get it, it's like, it's kind of floaty, or it's kind of like this, like that. So I think getting that right, and that was back in the Robot Rescue, the previous demo, we worked really hard on that. But, then VR adds several kinds of problem to that because, being the camera in VR, it means that your controls you're constantly like looking in a different way towards, away from your character. And so it means that those great controls you've made for a screen need to work in relation to where you're looking. Let me explain. For example, like, you're running left with your character, but suddenly I'm starting looking like behind myself. Now, where is left to me now? Is it still left?
Right.
Or is it relative to me, or is it, absolute, kind of like control? So things like that, that's when it gets really interesting because the controls are great for the TV screen if you were to play on the TV. The moment we put them in VR, you can't go in a straight line. Every time you look somewhere, your character is zigzagging around, for example.
Yeah. Oh,
so it means
impossible.
we need to do some corrective kind of work and try to understand, and that's when the whole kind of prototyping process is really, really interesting. And you when you get on the other side of that, you really feel like, okay, we've solved a problem that no one had to solve before. And so the team feel really good. And, it's like, so sorry, I'm kind of like swerving a little bit away, but I think the base controls and your jumping is really, really key. And talking back about jumping in VR, because you get this stereoscopic vision and you get a sense of depth that is really, really strong, you're able to really pinpoint go from A to B in a way that perhaps on TV would be difficult. And actually, as a good example, I think if you were to put Astrobot in a TV screen, a lot of jumps you wouldn't be able to make because you would be lacking this kind of depth relationship.
Really? That's interesting. You could play, I guess, just looking at the TV, but you think even just a flat version of Astrobot wouldn't work at all?
It would work in some places.
Sure.
But there would be lots of moments where you kind of, fall off, your jump is too short or you don't quite gauge the depth. So that's why we also implemented these lasers under Astro, because they really help you to gauge exactly where you're going to land.
Totally.
And especially when you're playing from underneath. And you see very little of your character, in fact. You just see the boots from underneath and you see all these platforms, and you just catch a glimpse of Astro kind of jumping from platform to platform. Having these points of reference in 3D space are really, really important. So this is also stuff that, we've had to add in order to compensate. The VR is adding lots of stuff, but it's also like making it more complicated for the user to some extent.
It's got to be a mess.
Yeah. So we bring these elements of simplification again to bring that pleasure back to what people expect.
Yeah, something that's amazing is throughout the game, and the VR I understand is a huge talking point with this game. It's massive within the game itself, but it's also just basic platforming level design. This game is so incredible, and just on the level of variety throughout the entire game. It's like so deep into the game where something is like that spooky mission. It's like, oh, what is this? A new tool completely out of the blue. Just that level of variety is so incredible. How do you make sure that there's enough variety throughout the entire game?
Okay, so for that one, we have a sort of checklist. So actually, I was gonna go back to a little bit of we can talk about that later. That's fine. But
sure.
Regarding the variety, so before we assemble levels, we prototype lots and lots of mechanics in isolation because we need. It's almost like you're about to cook and you need to get all your ingredients ready. It's like this cooking channel. They have everything kind of really ready. It's all nice, and that means you can really get things into an organized fashion, and you are sure also that you have the right amount, the right quantity, and that your ingredients, it tastes good in its own right, right? So we go through almost half of the project is spent prototyping, so preparing these ingredients, and half the project is spent assembling these things together. So as we gather these ingredients, we really go far out, and we have this kind of like key area that we're looking into. For example, one of them is called the VRNS. We gave it that name, VRNS. VRNS is all about the platforming elements that couldn't be done without VR. So, for example, leaning behind a wall, you see a path. Having a big vertical drop, or having a big kind of bump up, pushing you up, the verticality. There's also the physical play, because you exist in that world, right? And so using your head to kind of push parts of the environment, or blowing a dandelion, all of these things were tried individually. And when we try them individually, it's one programmer for a few days, for a week or so. So it's a very, very fast prototyping process where we really create a lot of stuff that doesn't look good, but that plays well. And then once we assemble a level, we know that at least the gameplay from the beginning is safe, because every part has been tested individually and it's fun. So then it needs to be stitched together. And then the art layer is on top, and that's like something that is more of a classic production process thing.
Yeah.
But the key really to get that base right. And to get that base right, I think we need to do it at the moment, that's how we're doing it. Like, everything in isolation, and then we assemble these building blocks, together. There's a bit, sorry, I just came back to me. I want you to also go back to the previous question you mentioned about the platforming. Also, because VR offers so much extra that you can do, like, moving around, like leaning past the wall and all the verticality and all these VRness I've been mentioning, it means that the base controls don't have to be complex at all. You can really make do with a jump and a punch. That's it.
It's a very knack level approach. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And then the VR does the rest. And theoretically, if the game has been built correctly, taking advantage of VR, you shouldn't need a very, very complex control scheme. Yeah. And then the gadgets come on top of that. So the gadgets were also prototyped the same way. Each gadget is prototyped individually. So, for example, the hook shot is going to be one prototype, and the prototype would be just a white room with a hook. You send your hook shot, and then you make a rope, and Astro can walk. And then a different room, you send a hook shot, and when you pull, you break the wall. Right. And then et cetera, et cetera. So all of these kind of like use cases are made individually, and then they kind of brought together. And because we have so many of these ingredients, spending half of the project, looking for them, by the time we assemble the levels, we have enough to keep a variety and to have one use case per level. Yeah. But it's been a thin line to walk to not repeat ourselves too much, because one of the goals we had was to make a big game in VR. The first wave of VR titles was very experimental. And this time around, we wanted to have a certain kind of like volume of gameplay. And so, the temptation to take a mechanic and recycle it, 2, 3, 4, 5 times is obviously there, because that allows you to kind of stretch your experience. But what we realized is that still VR also has a wow factor of just the freshness and the ride of being in a VR environment is also very important. And the moment you do a repetition is that much more visible, because you expect freshness at every corner. Right. So because of that, we prefer to go for an approach where every level would be unique. So every level is a new adventure. Every level is a new ride for you as the VR player, but also for Astro in terms of the enemies, the encounters, and things like that. So there's a few overlaps. There's a few recycle. There's a few reskin, but I think it's quite low. And that was a bit of a gamble, because there is a cost, approach to that. For sure. But in the end, I think it paid off.
Yeah. What were some things that you prototyped that didn't quite make the final cut as far as gadgets go?
The gadgets, there is one I showed. Did you see? It's a very small one. It was a magnet. Okay. So you could magnet stuff. Like, for example, if there's a hole, you could lean over the hole and you could magnet stuff up from that hole and rescue characters. The thing with that gadget is that it's very it's very. When we do a gadget, we want to make sure that there's several use cases, so that, for example, the water gadget has something like 10 different use cases. So it means that you get a gadget as a player, you have a use case, you play, you think you've seen it all, and then a few levels later, the water gadget again, but this time it's completely different. So so there's an element of kind of like, richness to the gadgets that is a requirement. And for example, the magnet just didn't scale. We couldn't find enough good use cases, so we left it aside. And
yeah, gotcha. The everybody makes a lot of Mario comparisons. I'm sure reading reviews for Astrobot, you must have been driven insane. Be like, we're our own game. Stop comparing it to Mario. But playing it, I thought so much about Mario 3D Land. What did you think of all those comparisons out there?
Well, of course, they are very flattering. And I think we need to be honest. I mean, it would be impossible to talk about platforming games in general. That pop culture of platforming without mentioning Mario. So, to me, there's no shame in talking about it. But like I mentioned at the beginning, what's important is that we don't just copy and paste these classics, and it's Mario and many others. The point is to not copy and paste. If we're just doing that, we're not doing the VR service, and we're not offering the best experience. The point is to really analyze how those games were made,
right,
and why they were fun for the hardware they were made, and why and break down those values and then rebuild with that mindset. So basically, being the same mindset as the creators, but create something that is ours. And that's been something that we've been discussing a lot in the team, is that the temptation when we're up against time is to just take something that is like a little bit that works and just do it with a bit of a reskin. But I think it's a very important part of our team. Spend the time kind of really analyzing and then doing it our way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you
So-
heard through the grapevine at all? Do you know if Miyamoto's ever played this game? I just feel like if he just would ever be so bold as to put on a PSVR, he would love it. There's no way he would not love this game.
I would hope so. I have no idea. Really.
Just send him a copy. Do you know where he lives? Somebody that you know must know where he lives. Just send him a PSVR and a copy of Astrobot and just see what happens. Please, I beg of you. It's just bizarre. So another thing that's just incredible with this game is just the level of polish. It feels like it has. I mean, PlayStation had such a crazy good year last year, and playing it, it's like, God, this is just continuing that trend of Sony giving the budget and the time to finish this thing off right. I mean, did you feel like you had a long phase at the end where you could really fine tune things?
Yeah, so we did. We reserved that phase. So Astrobot was 18 months in the making, and so as I mentioned, we spent the first 6 months prototyping, the next 6 months halfway through prototyping and ramping up in production, so a mix, and the last 6 months really in production. And so I think we knew we have a lot of content that we need to put in, and particularly the parts that were important were all the little stories that happen around you, because being inside this VR, it's obviously you're playing a video game, but we have this dual scale purpose, whereby you create a level that is miniature for Astro to make his jumps, and all of that is like the platform kind of gap, and all of that is perfectly like put together, and that's what a classic platformer needs. But you're in VR, so when you look up as a human player, you need to have this world to your scale. So we have this kind of two-layer design where when I'm looking down, I see a miniature world. When I'm looking up, I'm looking at this amazing giant world for my own benefit as a VR, right? And so part of that, looking around, is also being inside this kind of lively cartoon. So everything has to react. Everything has to, there needs to be lots of kind of stories happening around you. So for example, when you approach the water, these kind of big, these dolphins kind of jump, they welcome you, you go on the magic carpet thing, and then you go underwater. And the introduction is really, really important. And during that time, it's a cutscene, effectively. It's interactive. You never stop playing. You never stop being the actor, but it's effectively a cutscene. And these little stories, sometimes humorous, sometimes more like, wow, they have these moments. These were very, very important. And at the end, we reserved some time, blocked some time out, and we made sure that every single level was revisited for these little things, because these little details, you're totally right. When they're the ones often that you remember. Of course, you remember the big gameplay and that it was fun. But if you remember very precise moments, it will be the moment that little guy, that's that, or the moment like a vulture comes and steals a cow, and then did I just see that?
Right. Or like getting the seaweed stuck on your head, just like those little touches. It's like, oh, I've never experienced this in a game before. Yeah.
In fact, the seaweed, I think that came literally a week before Master.
That's insane.
Like, guys, we've got a water thing. We know we can do it. So we just sat down and we're like, okay, let's do it. And just boom, we did that one. So
I cannot imagine how happy you must have been the first time that you sat back and listened to this game's soundtrack. It's like Kenny Young composed it, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Is he sending over one track at a time, or is it just one big dump and you listen to it and just say, "Good God, our game is now great"?
So it's one track at a time, and it's the track has like it's like a representative track, and then we iterate a couple of times on it. Or sometimes it's from the beginning it's go. And the great thing with Kenny is that when we were doing those prototypes, that was before Kenny was on board. We needed some background music, and of course we can use anything at that time. It's not public, so we could use it. We could borrow from anywhere. But particularly, I was looking. I remember like for some tracks for like a canyon stage and something a little bit kind of like Mexicanos. I mean, kind of fun, and I started digging into Little Big Planet quite a bit because it's a great soundtrack and it has this sort of funky kind of vibe. And some of the levels had that music. Some of the levels I remember was using a lot of Undertale soundtrack. It's also a great soundtrack for bosses and stuff. And so then he came to the point, okay, well, we need to actually make the music. And we were scratching our heads like, what should we do? And then I thought, hang on a second, I'm friends with Kenny's on Facebook, because Kenny used to be in London studio a long time ago. Like we've been using all his music. The guy is like freelance. Should just get in touch. And he was at GDC, in fact, maybe 3 years ago. We kind of reconnected, and then that's it. And then he did it, and he delivered so good. I mean, I'm so glad that he was on board, because I think a good soundtrack, it's just so important, right?
Yeah, I had the main theme stuck in my head for weeks after, so of course it's just all right. I'll just keep thinking about Astrobot, and I can't get it out of my head now. Yeah, it's insanely good. What has been the highlight of the experience so far for you? It must have been a crazy ride releasing this thing. Is there one moment that really stands out to you as peak happiness for this project?
Well, the peak happiness, it's a little bit. Of course, there's been lots of kind of like moments of satisfaction throughout, as we try new things, and you play and you're like, man, this is feeling good, and but there was a doubt throughout the whole project. I mean, personally, I was always in. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine.
I'm sorry. I was always in doubt. I'm not crying. I'm just.
It'd be nice if you were crying, but yeah, go ahead.
I was always in doubt because going back to what we said at the beginning, VR, has been seen as this kind of first-person experiences, and VR purists will tell you, that the floating hands and this interaction when you take objects, put them down is really important. And if you don't have that, it's not VR, And so there was always a feeling that the underlying feeling that we wanted to make that game. And by the way, the audience also asked for Robot Rescue. A lot of people we got some comments. So everybody wanted Robot Rescue, but there was an underlying feeling that is this really the right thing to make? Because it's VR should be about presence, first person, and all these things. And so throughout the entire making of Astrobot, I was never confident that it would be so that well received. But I think it's a good thing because it keeps us on our feet. And so all we're looking at is the little problems and always like the trying to find solutions. But for me, the peak has been actually I was in France at that time. It was after we shipped, and the first reviews came through. And I remember Road to VR gave it 10 out of 10, and I just couldn't believe it. I was walking in the street, and I just got a 10. It's the first time in my life, but it's just like, my God, I couldn't, so that's probably the high. It's a little bit egoistic, it's, a review, a 10 out of 10 review, of course, but there was such a big contrast with all the, all the concern and all the how careful we were throughout the production. And to have this kind of liberation at the end, and this confirmation actually, it's fine. A third-person action game in VR, can be received well.
Yeah.
That was
It was crazy. I forget who it was specifically, but somebody who had played the game early tweeted, and it was like, hey, can't reveal what the game is, but I can talk about it on this day when the Astrobot embargo lifts. And he said that, hey, it's the equivalent of playing Super Mario 64 for the first time.
that was IGN Australia, I think. Yeah,
oh, was
IGN.
it? Okay.
Yeah.
Did you see that? Yeah. Did you see the reaction towards that before it was fully revealed?
It was after Tokyo Game Show, I think. And yes, the reaction, and I was thinking, wow, that's really, really, it's a big statement to make, right?
It's crazy. Would you agree with that statement? Do you think that's a little bit much even?
At the time, I would not agree. I mean, even today, I mean, it's up to people to judge that. I mean, I'm really glad. I do feel something that I've only realized afterwards, and I'm not saying this is a truth, but it's only a supposition that perhaps. As I was working through Astrobot with the team, I was playing some other games at home, and some games I just couldn't get into. Some great games I was really, really, really expecting, and I just couldn't get into. And as I finished, maybe I was thinking I'm tired, too busy to really. I should have played it when I was really relaxed. But I think actually, in hindsight, perhaps one of the elements is that being in VR every day, having this experience, going back to these maybe some games that are kind of more classic, maybe it was a little bit. Perhaps something was a little bit missing.
Interesting.
And that's good because. I'm not saying for me, I play still, TV games, a large majority, and I'm enjoying them. But what it means is that VR does bring something unique, and when it's not there, it's missed, and that's a very, very good sign, I think, for the medium.
Yeah. So you're committed to VR games for the immediate future in your career?
Yeah, we're gonna try, and we're gonna continue and see. I don't want, trying things out, and we'll see. I mean, I don't want to. The team, I think, has so much to offer. They could go in, lots of different ways. But I feel more confident about VR now, for sure. And in fact, so going back to the GDC talk, I think one of the things I'm finishing the conversation on is to say, particularly around the third-person action games, if you look at games like Moss, if you look at games like Rez, or even Tetris Effect. It's a Tetris game, but and Astrobot, all of these games enjoyed really, really a lot of love, in fact, from the audience. And it's interesting because none of those actually, they're all like third-person games or kind of classic, genres readapted to VR.
Right.
And I think that's very encouraging because it means that if somebody out there really wants to make a classic game, and again, it's not a copy, it's not a case of just taking a game, slapping it into VR, but if they want to deconstruct and reconstruct the classic genre in VR, it's totally possible. And so it means we have so many doors that we thought were shut that actually are wide open for us to take. Yeah. And that's really exciting as game developers, I think.
It's interesting, just to go back in time a little bit, with Super Mario Galaxy. I assume you're a fan.
Yes.
Okay. It was interesting, when that game wrapped up, that team said, oh my God, we just have so many ideas that we couldn't cram into Super Mario Galaxy 1, that they were able to crank out Super Mario Galaxy 2 shockingly quick. Do you understand that sentiment of there's so much, and now we know the tech, and we understand all the hurdles that could be coming, and let's just crank out a sequel? Do you understand that mentality?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I think it's probably true of many games out there. When you finish, the end phase being such a, you've got to have your stuff, very kind of high quality, especially for those games. So your cutoff date comes much earlier than than your end date, and so during these last 6, 9, 12 months sometimes, still ideas come out, but you have to be reasonable and not put them in.
Yeah.
And so I think it's natural to end up with a massive bag of things, plus the experience that you gain. So, next time around, if I was to do this, I would do it that way, and, it would be better. And so I think it's natural. The thing to be cautious about in our case is that, the surprise effect was really great. And, I think, and so we need to maintain that. And so, creating number 2 and 3 and 4 and 5, is not necessarily the way to really surprise people again. So that's an interesting thing, to think about. It's what's, how do we, for the future, it's how do we recreate that wow magic, that wow factor? Because, the first time when you surprise people, you play that card, but after that card is played, and, you need to replace it with something else, right? So
if Astrobot comes back in the future, you'd want it to be not just, hey, here's some more levels. It'd have to be pretty radically different.
If there was another one, I think it would have to be. We would have to bring a game changer. Yeah.
Some sort of game changer. Do you know in your head what that game changer would be?
No. And
Really?
I can't tell you that.
Interesting.
Of course,
All right.
I know, but I can't tell you that.
Of course I know. How did it sell?
I can't tell you that.
Okay. All right. How important was that bundle? That seemed key. It seemed like everybody that got the Moss Astrobot bundle, it's like, well, Astrobot's just the star of the show here.
So that's probably one for Amy, actually. I mean,
Oh, sure. PR person. I understand it's a little bit complicated. Well, that's awesome. Anything else you want to say? Any other stories from game development on the team that you want to share?
yeah, there's probably a couple of things actually. I mentioned on first of all that when we finished Robot Rescue, that was the sample, like one of the mini games of Playroom VR.
Yeah.
Even for Robot Rescue, yeah. We really wanted to make a big game, but we. I say we. It's more of a personal thing, I had doubts. I was thinking, what's the next game we should be making, and seeing the response on the net, from all the people. It was the beginning of PSVR. And I remember some articles saying, I wish that game was, a bigger game, and, I would definitely get it. And that was a great, great motivation. It's not just, a story. I mean, it's true. I remember it was in December 2016, kind of, before we started New Year's, thinking, and should we do this? And then seeing all these comments was, I think, a real boost of confidence, so that we could go into the next year and go, right. Guys, people want it. We want to make it, right? But people also want it. So, let's go for it. So that's a really big one.
That's going to be huge.
And the other one is one thing that I'm going to touch on at the end of the GGC presentation. I think it's all the kind of fails. And one of the big ones was, not a fail, but it's something it's an interesting story, that one. The game was multiplayer for a long time because Playroom VR was a social interaction experience where you had a VR player and people on the sofa, having asymmetric gameplay. Yeah, you remember. And so we took that and started building Astrobot from that philosophy. And so we put 3 players on a TV screen and 1 player in VR. And so you could play 4 players. So the bosses were playable 4 players, and there was lots of stages. So you run around and you see all these little guys running around you, and it's like. And on the TV, you also see the VR player. So you see all the 4 groups, plus this giant guy floating behind them.
Right.
And every morning we would play the game, and there would be nothing but laughter. People were groups of 4 or 5 people, and it was, laughing a lot. And it was all a bit broken, and, it's a prototype and stuff. But still, it was the fundamentals were fun. You could stack on top of each other. You could punch each other. So it's kind of like cooperative games, but also with a little bit of a competitive element. Yeah. But then we got to near halfway of development. So the levels were coming together, built for 4 players. And then there was this thing where the VRness I mentioned at the beginning, it was quite clear that because of the TV camera, because of this multiplayer, the camera had to follow the action on the TV, the amplitude of experience in VR had to be reduced because it was kind of restricted by the camera. For example, let's imagine that you have a bumper like 30 meters down, and then you bump up, and you bump all the way back up into the clouds. In VR, you can do that. But on a TV camera, you can't, follow 4 people doing that and then back up. Your camera is all over the place. So in order to fit that, what happens is that, the level designers start becoming shy with the use of VR. So instead of having this massive drop and this massive jump, it's more or less a little bit up and down, right? And so we got to this interesting crossroad where it's like, guys, we are making a decent multiplayer game. Maybe it will be whatever. If we finish it well, we can maybe reach 8 out of 10 because it's a difficult space to be in. Managing all these multiplayer and things like that. As a solo experience, it's actually quite poor because the moment you play alone, the VR doesn't feel good, and the levels are way too wide because they've been built for 4 players. Yeah. So you end up having these big avenues that you run in, but it's it's difficult to populate with action. And then what we don't want to have to do is to create a game for 1 player, a game for 2 players, 3 and 4, having like a scalability. I mean, it's like a nightmare to manage. So it became a case of, guys, either we're making that or we're making a VR game. And of course, we're making a VR game. And of course, the solo needs to take a priority because a lot of people are playing PSVR on their own. And I think that's so we have a social heritage of multiplayer. That's how the team was put together. That was one of our key values. And we've had to sort of go against that heritage and go, this is a PSVR game, and so the solo needs to take priority. So I rounded up all the guys in the room, and at the end, it was just like, we either make that game or we rebalance. We bring multiplayer down to the minimum. And the idea was to just keep a few mini games. In the end, they all went. And then we focus on solo, and then we have that chance of hitting, that 9 out of 10. And but that was tough because there are people investing time and things like that. And so the first 2 weeks after that, it was quite difficult. I could feel like there was a lot of doubts. They were like, thinking, changing direction halfway through is scary, right?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. And then the first levels, the first true VR levels starting coming through. So sure, you couldn't play with 5 people on the sofa anymore, or 4 people had to watch one guy playing. But that guy playing was now moving around, looking around behind things, having this big experience, which much more kind of use of VR. And that kind of validated, okay, well, that's the way we need to go. And then after that, the second half of the project meant that all the levels had to be kind of reworked or created from scratch, and it ended up being Astrobot. So that's one of the stories that is like a classic development kind of like reboot moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was difficult
I bet.
on a human point of view, because you're having to break some pretty difficult news. But on the other side, once everything comes together, then it's a great lesson that we learned.
Absolutely. And yeah, no one's going to be complaining about, another great single player game on my PS4. Like, that's fine. That audience is out there. They're hungry for it, and they just want it to be the best that they can. Yeah, for sure. Any other feedback that surprised you when the game came out? Like, did people really react towards some things that you didn't see coming? Even just like, I forget what the level's called, but the one with like the big buddy where people like super into the idea of interacting with this huge giant.
It's huge, yeah. So all of that we kind of expected. I mean, they were built for that. So I think it's interesting what people said, that the level design being genius, because in a way it's it's so fast. We assembled the game, and it's kind of created from these ingredients where we're trying to make the best use of VR, and it's not like we don't have any experience in level design. In fact, it was the first time we were making levels, before we were making mini games. So it's not like I think it just came together. I think VR does a lot to help this game, actually feeling the way it feels.
Yeah, that's interesting for sure.
Yeah.
Somebody on staff at Game Informer here, I won't name names, they're like, hey, please ask him about that headbutt move and whether he still feels like that was necessary in the game. Because it is like the one thing where it's like, okay, I guess I gotta just kind of ram my head through this thing. And it doesn't feel like the most fun thing. It's kind of just like, all right, here's this obligation every once in a while. Do you have any thoughts on that in retrospect?
So yeah, keeping the player engaged physically was one of the important kind of tick boxes. And not too much of it so that it doesn't become tiresome. But it's interesting actually, because recently I've had the exact kind of opposite comment, where somebody telling me like every time they headbutt, they're just laughing so much.
Oh, really?
All right. They're kind of hysterical about just like maybe the sound of the headbutt. I don't know. I can see why for some gamers, like anything that it becomes like can feel like gimmicky. Like,
yeah.
Like some of these interactions. At the same time, it's important to always take the player out of that gaming routine and do something a little bit fresh. For example, blowing on a dandelion, I think you could probably say the same thing. It's like it's used twice in the game, and it's one of those moments which doesn't do anything gameplay wise. It's just a showcase of the feature, with a nice kind of VR effect, and you have to wait for that path to kind of create. But it's without it, I think. Without those little kind of physical moments, maybe the tempo of the game would be different. And I think that was also carefully crafted. In fact, when there's a little bit of physical interaction, we know that at that time, usually you stop controlling Astro just for a few seconds, and then you take control again. So it's a kind of turn-based approach where, the physical play makes up for maybe 10% of the experience, and then a little bit more with the kind of leaning and stuff like that. But and the rest of the time, you're controlling Astro, with your controller. So this kind of balance between these little breaks are kind of important. So perhaps while the headbutt itself, it could have been something else. is maybe less important. The breaks and the tempo breaker between your physical experience versus controlling the character with the controller.
Yeah.
That's important to the game feeling. Having the right heartbeat.
Yeah, no, that makes sense for sure. Well, hey, Nicolas, I've kept you here too long, but hats off to the team. I know it's been a while, but hats off to them. We are really looking forward to seeing what the entire team puts together in the future. So congratulations again.
Well, thank you very much. I'll pass the message.
Yeah, please do. And thank you so
Thanks
much for
a lot.
watching or listening to this episode of the Game Informer Show podcast. Be sure to tune in next Thursday when we'll have some sort of new episode waiting for you. Bye, everybody.